After 9 races in the 2013 season, there's still championships to be awarded in the 5 classes that make up the American Le Mans Series. Jan Magnussen and Antonio Garcia are a 3rd straight and 4th win of the season away from earning a championship for both themselves and Chevrolet in the GT class. Marino Franchitti is all that stands between his boss Scott Tucker and Tucker's 2nd straight P2 championship. And in Prototype Challenge, unlikely hero Michael Gouache has parlayed a part-time ride into championship contention. Today, the picturesque country club setting of Virginia International Raceway will be the backdrop for the crowning of champions.
ESPN and the American Le Mans Series, presented by Tequila Patron, bring you Series Round 9, the Oak Tree Grand Prix from Virginia International Raceway. It's a beautiful track and a beautiful selling. The rolling hills of Southern Virginia, just across the border from North Carolina. First built back in 1957. This track has hosted a lot of professional racing over the years, and today 5 classes of American Le Mans Series cars will do battle over the 3.27-mile course. I'm Richard Brule along with Jeremy Shaw. And Jeremy, this track is a challenge from start to finish.
It's a wonderful racetrack, as you say. The setting is gorgeous. It's a tremendous place to go racing. We've seen a lot of incidents during the weekend so far. I'm sure we'll see more this afternoon, but these championship battles we're going to be watching out for.
Let's take a look at them. You see them right there. The P1, both team and drivers haven't been decided, but P2, everything's at stake there. You see Marino Franchitti leading the way. The reality is it's Scott Tucker and Scott Sharp who are competing for that championship. In PC, Mike Gouache, well, there was a big change as a result of what happened at the Circuit of the Americas, Jeremy.
Yeah, there was indeed. The John Bennett car finished in 3rd place, but was disqualified afterwards, scored no points at all, and all of a sudden Michael Gouache went from behind in the championship standings 2 weeks ago now to a substantial lead. So the boot there very much on the other foot.
In the GT division, Antonio Garcia and Jan Magnussen with a win at Circuit of America, as a result moved up in the championship, and now they are in contention in the lead. But the big thing that matters here is the GT championship for the manufacturers. Chevrolet could clinch with the win today. And then when it comes to GTC, well, Jeremy, anything is possible there. That's because everybody is still in contention practically.
All bets are off there. We've had 4 different teams have won races in GTC this season, including TRG that won last time out. Also, TRG with Damien Faulkner will start on the pole again this afternoon.
We talked about the GT manufacturers race. There you see it right there. Chevrolet and BMW, really the 2 contenders. Chevrolet and Corvette could clinch if they can get a victory today, which means for BMW, the team that is qualified on the pole here already, they have something huge at stake. We have Kelly Stavis and Jamie Howe down on pit lane today. Let's hear from the teams.
In order for the BMW to stay in the manufacturer's chase, they have to win the race today. Maxime Martin has already taken the first step towards that by claiming the GT class pole. But Maxime, you guys need to turn this into a victory. What does the team have to do today to see the checkered flag?
To see the checkered flag in first position, it will be really difficult. I think we have a really good qualifying car. The only thing we can hope, it's because it's a track really difficult to overtake. So I think if we start in front, maybe we have the chance to stay in front, and why not to finish the race with a victory. But yeah, we know it will be really hard, but we will fight for it. And Bill will take the start, and I'm sure he will do very fine to stay in front.
You can see by Maxime's car, he is not starting the car. That is his co-driver, Bill Auberland. They have 2 cars, though, on the grid today, and Joey Hand will line up 3rd.
After a disastrous start to the season for the number 3 Corvette, Jan Magnussen and Antonio Garcia have turned a 24-point deficit into a 13-point lead with 2 rounds to go. Jan having a bit of a points cushion. How does that affect your strategy today?
Well, today for us is really all about trying to see if we can win the manufacturer championship. There's a fairly good chance that we can do that today, but it all depends on what the BMW, one of the BMW does. And then after that, we'll see where we are in the Drivers' Championship, but it would be really, really nice going into Petit Le Mans with a good handful of points, so to take some pressure off.
Thank you, Jan.
Thanks.
Always better to go in that last race with everything already clinched. Now let's talk about the P2 division. We talked about this just a moment ago. There are a lot of names in the mix, but the reality is it just comes down to Scott Tucker and Scott Sharp. Marino Franchitti on the Level 5 team, he knows his job is to make sure that the team owner, Scott Tucker, can win that championship. Guy Cosmo, obviously in a different situation now, but Tucker and Sharp are the 2 guys that we were really concerned about. Remember, just 2 points between those 2. And the teammate, the co-driver for Scott Tucker is Ryan Briscoe, and he knows what he has to do.
Well, Ryan Briscoe's in a unique position here at Level 5 Motorsports. He is the co-driver for team owner Scott Tucker, and they're trying to get him that championship. Ryan, for you, I imagine it's both the pressure of trying to get the boss that title, but also the pleasure of knowing that you get to go out there and race as hard as you can and get this car the win.
Yeah, I mean, pretty simple task for me, so I just got to try to keep the nose clean today. Scott's going to start, and he needs to get an hour of driving time in to get the points, and then I guess we'll try to get me in as soon as possible after that and try to bring it home. But the car's been great all weekend. Qualifying was awesome. Good battle between myself and Marino, and we're looking forward to the race.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks.
Well, Scott Sharp finds himself only 14 points out of the lead in that P2 category championship. But, Scott, this has not been an easy weekend for you. You guys have had all sorts of mechanical issues, electrical issues. What does the team have to do to turn it around and get you those championship points?
Oof, it's been a tough weekend for sure. You know, we've missed some sessions, a couple different sessions to start the weekend off. It's hard when you're behind, and I made a mistake in qualifying and got outside in the dirt and basically got off into the tire wall. And you know, we got the car working pretty well this morning. We felt very comfortable in the car, very fast. There's lots of scenarios being played out here with the Level 5 team. Obviously, we need to come out of here with our maximum points. So for us, it's pretty easy, though. It's just fast as you can go and let everything else worry about itself.
And they do have an uphill battle. As Scott mentioned, that problem in qualifying, they start 9th overall, so they have to get through some PC cars to catch their class.
And Jeremy, Level 5 working very hard to engineer that championship for Scott Tucker, but you have to be careful. You try to engineer things in a racing world, and those unreliable cars can get in the way sometimes.
Yeah, they've got to make sure that Scott Tucker finishes 70% of the race distance in order to score any points at all this weekend. That's really their first goal going in. But for Extreme Speed Motorsports, boy, they had a nightmare weekend at Circuit of the Americas 2 weeks ago. As Scott Sharp said then, it's been a nightmare week so far this time, but maybe all their bad luck is out of the way.
Yeah, they would love to hear that that's the case. All right, let's talk about the PC battle. We mentioned earlier Mike Wash leads the way right now. He has a 20-point lead over John Bennett. Important to point out, Colin Brown, who is in second place, 8 points behind, has moved up to the GT division. As a result, he is no longer in this championship. That means Mike Wash is the guy who's sitting in the catbird seat if he can just pull this off.
Well, Mike Wash had only planned on racing a handful of events this season, but after winning the 2 of the first 3 races, he realized he had a championship on his hands. And now with 2 races to go, Mike, you've got a pretty comfortable lead in the championship here in PC. How has this season exceeded your expectations?
Oh, it's great. I mean, like you said, I planned on doing the first 3 races and the last 3 races, take the summer off. That just didn't happen. Ended up leading in the beginning, so we had a tough mid-year, but now we're back in the championship lead and with a nice point spread, so we want to do well today and just keep it on the track, and I think we're going to be in good shape.
All right, Mike will be co-driving with the young Dane Cameron.
The young Dane Cameron, who has already gotten the pole, and that really matters. 5 classes, 32 cars, championships at stake everywhere. This is going to be one busy place today. We're going to take a quick break and then come back to Virginia International Raceway right after this.
Race into the night, October 19th at Road Atlanta's Petit Le Mans, powered by Mazda. See the world's fastest and most exotic 200-mile-per-hour Le Mans sports cars at Road Atlanta. Petit Le Mans, October 19th.
There's so much to love about Bridgestone's Dueler tires. The amazing traction, the quiet, comfortable ride, and they're really tough. It's like loving 3 tires in one.
Deltran Battery Tender battery chargers. Just like the everyday consumer, the racing community knows the importance of a healthy charge. Deltran Battery Tender is the trusted charger for some of the most respected brands in the world today. Don't let a dead battery ruin your fun or work. If you can't start it, you can't drive it. Connect a Deltran Battery Tender battery charger to all of your batteries. Available at these fine retailers. If it's not a Deltran Battery Tender, it's just a pretender.
Here's another great thing about our Dueler tires, a comfortable, quiet ride. Whose idea was this? Corporate.
At Bridgestone, our passion for performance knows no bounds. Race into the night, October 19th at Road Atlanta's Petit Le Mans, powered by Mazda. See the world's fastest and most exotic 200-mile-per-hour Le Mans sports cars at Road Atlanta. Petit Le Mans, October 19th.
ESPN coverage of the American Le Mans Series presented by Tequila Patron is brought to you by Continental Tire. Innovative technology, driving confidence. Chevrolet, find new roads. Tequila Patron, simply perfect.
Back here at Virginia International Raceway, where we're expecting a very warm day. Temperatures up in the high 80s. Now, we mentioned earlier that there is no points championship at stake in the P1 division. But that doesn't mean there isn't things at stake on the track when those drivers get out there. The Dyson team has made it very clear that they're here to race. Yesterday, Guy Smith went out and won the pole for what could be a very emotional race for the Englishman.
After a difficult season for Dyson Racing, the 2011 champ Guy Smith put the 16 car on pole in what will be his final race in the American Le Mans Series. Guy, how important was it to finish on top yesterday? And what's the emotion as you prepare for your last ever ALMS race?
Yeah, I mean, you say it's been a difficult season, so, you know, really knew that this was going to be my last race here in the American Le Mans Series and my last qualifying session. So I wanted to make sure that that we got the pole position. Of course, never take it for granted because the competition's so tough, but no, it's great. It's great to be on pole position, and now we've got to try and convert it to a win and end the season on a high.
And I know Team Muscle Milk was saying coming into this weekend with Guy Smith behind the wheel of that Dyson machine, they knew they were going to have someone to compete with on this track. This was not just going to be an easy way to walk through it. Now, in GTC, as I mentioned, we don't see anybody clinching this week, and the point's just too tight. The two Alex Job drivers have just a 4-point lead over Spencer Pumpelly and Nelson Canache in the Flying Lizard machine. And then you've got Enrique Cisneros, who's just 10 points back. Now, let's catch up with one of the contenders, Jerome Bleekmolen.
Yes, Jerome Bleekmolen and his co-driver Cooper McNeil lead by only 4 points in this GTC championship. So, Jerome, what position are you in today as far as how aggressive can you be?
Well, I think everybody's going to go flat out all the way, everything they've got, because that's the only way you're going to win this championship. It's all or nothing, I think. If you hold back, if you want to play it safe, it's not going to win you the championship.
That's going to make for an exciting race today, guys. Cooper McNeil lines up second.
Taking a look from Google Earth as we zoom in and you see Virginia International Raceway, 3.27 miles, 17 turns. You are constantly busy on this track as you negotiate your way around. Now let's take a look at the Patron track description.
Welcome to Virginia. Hi, I'm Scott Sharp, driver of the ESN Patron P2 car. Here we are at one of the most picturesque tracks, VIR. Follow me as I show you some of the hot spots around here. Here we are in the braking zone for turn 1. The best spot on the track to pass. It's wide, it's straight, and whether you're going at the start of the field or whether you're trying to pass a competitor for position, it's definitely the best place to do it. Here we are at the infamous Oak Tree Corner. However, the tree's now gone. But this is still a very critical section. It's slippery, it's narrow, and it's imperative that you get the car turned and rotated on the throttle early and get a great shot down the back straight. Barreling into turn 14, 6th gear, 170 miles an hour, hard on the brakes, down to 2nd gear. As you start this descent, you see a lot of people run into problems. Up to 3rd, up to 4th, flat out as you go down to here. Aptly named the roller coaster section, but you gotta get it right to have a fast lap here at VIR.
Nothing simple about this track. You are busy all the time. You're either going through turns, going through elevation changes, one way or another. This track, 3.27 miles around, all 17 turns, will keep you busy. And over the course of this weekend, we have seen lots of drivers who have, shall we say, had agricultural excursions as we look around and look at it and all that grass that's been cut, and they've been keep bringing that back on. Let's talk about the 5 classes that we're going to have here. Prototypes, the big cars, the P1 cars, open cockpit speeds up to 200 miles an hour. Then you've got the P2 division, very similar looking, not quite as fast. And then we've got PC, a spec series. Everybody has sealed engines, 430 horsepower. In the GT division, well, then we've got one of the Porsches, basically designed off a stock chassis, but from there they have all kinds of work they do to the car. Then the GT Challenge series, a spec series. All those cars are the same, all running Yokohama tires. Theoretically all the same, but once again, the drivers and the teams can make the distance. Now, once again, we've got the series as they begin to form up here. 32 cars. We've got Guy Smith in that Dyson machine starting from the pole.
Indeed, and it was a tremendous lap yesterday by Guy Smith, and the Muscle Milk guys, they didn't do the test session, struggled a little bit yesterday. I know they're going to be fast today, Rick.
Yeah, in fact, one of the reasons they didn't do the test session was because they wanted to be able to preserve that machine. Now, we should point out, we understand there's going to be some fireworks off to the side of the track when they go by. Fireworks on the track and off the track, and we're green here at Virginia International Raceway as the Dyson car, Guy Smith, kind of moved up into the lead and looked like he has command right now.
And there is the somebody locked up at the back of the field there, but as you can see, under braking for the first corner there, the Muscle Milk car almost alongside, and indeed does go alongside on the exit off turn 1.
A much better start than they had here last year. Remember, they had problems with the Dyson cars that came together, and as a result, there was a big pileup going into that first turn, but it looks like everybody's making it through cleanly.
And Klaus Graf has got the lead from Johnny Mollem on the first lap here. There goes the Falcon tire car off the road.
Yeah, and part of the problem that we've seen all weekend long, you look at the front of that car, you can see all the grass that has already accumulated on the inlet for the radiator for the air coolers right there. And what we've seen is as a car goes off, when they come back onto the track, they bring lots of debris, they bring lots of grass that will slowly but surely make this track slicker and slicker and slicker.
We've seen it all the way through the week so far. A lot of drivers making mistakes. It's a very easy racetrack here to kind of get carried away, trying a little bit too hard. There's not an awful lot of things to hit here that are solid. There's good runoff areas in many parts of the racetrack, but what they do, what drivers do when they run off the course, they come back on and bring all sorts of grass and dirt and everything else. It makes the racetrack really, really slippery. It's a low grip racetrack to start with, and it gets even more treacherous as the race goes on with all this debris brought back onto the racetrack.
And you saw that little puff of dust as the cars were just clipping the dirt at the edge of the track, which brings a little bit more on. Kind of surprising up front when we saw the Dyson car initially taking the lead, but Muscle Milk bouncing back so quickly there. That 52 car right there, the black and blue car, that is the car that is being, that Mike Wash is counting on to help him get this championship.
What a great first lap that was from Klaus Graf. A huge lead, 3 seconds over Johnny Mollem. Johnny, of course, hasn't driven this car this year. First time in the ALMS car. It was a great run by Guy Smith, and Johnny Mollem, though, not quite got the same amount of confidence in that car, and it showed on the first corner. Klaus Graf taking full advantage.
And we should talk about the fact that while there is no championship at stake for the Muscle Milk car, there are some other things at stake. For example, Lucas Luhr with 48 victories. Yes, he has the record. He has the most victories in American Le Mans racing, but he wants that magic 50, which would require him to get one today and one more at Petit Le Mans.
Yes, indeed. It'd be a big milestone for him. He's taken the mantle of the most successful driver in ALMS history this year. Also in poles, he's equaled the tally set by Olivier Beretta, and I think it will be Lucas Luhr's turn to qualify the car at Petit Le Mans. Can he break that record as well?
There we're seeing the two level 5 cars, the car in the lead, the 551 car, which is being driven by Scott Tucker, and the interesting person is this guy right here, Stefan Johansson right there, who is in the 552 car, and right now he's trailing Scott Tucker.
Well, all 4 of the cars in the P2 category do have that same Honda power plant underneath them, but they do have a brand new turbo system here this weekend. The throttle response is better, the drivability is better. It doesn't have the same turbo lag that we've seen, and it's not going to be a big issue in the P2 class because they are all the same, but where it's going to come into play today is going to be in traffic. They've had a hard time getting around the PC cars in the past, but this weekend they said it's much easier for them to race.
Riding on board with Scott Tucker as he comes around turn 17, goes up that front straightaway. We call it a front straightaway, but the reality is there's a little dog leg in there right there. Now, let's go to the GT battle, where the Risi Ferrari yesterday, well, they kind of had some adventures. They were the fastest car at one point, but ultimately lost that fast lap to the BMW. But even when they were on their next fastest lap, they had a problem at one of the turns.
Yeah, they did indeed, and it was Olivier Beretta who qualified that car, ran off the road, ran over a curb, tore an oil line off the gearbox and just littered the racetrack.
So the Ricci Ferrari continues to go around, and they were able to repair that. What they did was that in addition to repairing the under tray, they also created a new aluminum panel that was going to go into place so that if they were to have a problem, do the same thing they did yesterday, they would not break that same oil line. So you learn something with every mistake that happens.
Isn't that right? And you know, it looked really nasty initially. We thought, oh, that is, look, what's that? That's a tire off somebody's car has exploded. It would appear on lap 3. And that's on, I think that's on the back straightaway here, coming out of Oak Tree Corner. And yeah, somebody's tire has exploded.
There we go. The 31 car with Seth Nyman on board, or the 31 car right there with Cisneros.
Yeah, it was actually, they made a late change. It's Kuba Gmerziak who started the car. The pro driver coming over from Europe. He's a lot of experience in the Super Cup, the Porsche Super Cup in Europe. But yeah, that tire has gone flat. It's a good, interesting strategic call by NGT Motorsports, running this number 31 car for the first time this season.
All right, let's take a look at what caused the flat there. They came together, and that's exactly what did it at that moment. There's a wrong hit, wrong connection at the wrong time, caused a flat on that car, the number 31 car, as those 3 GTC cars were battling.
Yeah, it was Gmerziak trying to make the move there alongside Patrick Dempsey.
You saw how that tire was just completely shredded. The wheel was damaged. Now, for what it's worth, it is the beginning of a 2-hour and 45-minute race. We should point out last year this was a 4-hour race. This year it is a 2-hour and 45-minute. And there you see Falken coming in as well.
Yeah, I think you were right. You called that right. I think when we saw Wolf Henson running off the road at turn 2 on that very first lap, filled up that radiator inlet with grass, and he comes in. I'm sure the temperatures would have been creeping higher and higher. Had no option but to bring that car into pit lane, clean off all that debris, and get Wolf Henson back out into the fray. It's been a struggle towards the end of this season for the Falken Tire team. They started off so strong, but nothing really has gone right for them in the last second half of the season.
Let's take a look at what happened. Remember, this was early on in the race. On the outside, and there you see the Corvette just moving to the outside just a little bit, and that was just enough that to make an evasive maneuver that Porsche went off course.
Yeah, certainly the Corvettes are kind of jinked to the outside there, and Wolf obviously saw him coming, and I think probably reacted thinking they were going to make contact. I don't think there was any contact between those two, but a little bit unfortunate there for Wolf Henson. He didn't want to make any contact with the left front wheel, so kind of jinked his way a little bit to the right in avoidance, and then put that wheel on the grass, and off he went from there. But it's going to be a long road back now for that number 17 Porsche, and again for the number 31 car too. It's a shame for them, because that was an interesting strategic call to start off with a pro driver in the number 31 car at the back of the GTC field. He was working his way forward very, very quickly. He was trying to pass Patrick Dempsey, it was, number 27 car that started. Patrick Dempsey started that car. Contact between those two, that punctured tire, and the number 31 car is right at the back of the pack.
And what we're seeing here is the GT battle. That is the lead car right there, that Ferrari, with right behind the car being driven, the Viper being driven by Dominic Farbacher. You can see them as they're going through, this coming off of the lead straightaway, going through the first set of turns, and now we're looking back at the BMW that is right behind them as well.
Yeah, good start certainly by the Ferrari there. Olivier Beretta starting the car. It was Matteo Malicelli who qualified second yesterday despite that penalty, and the car's been fast all weekend long. We thought it was going to be fast. It's kind of the sort of smooth flowing nature of this track really suits the Ferrari, and the drivers are taking full advantage of it. And a couple of weeks ago at Circuit of the Americas, Olivier Beretta really struggled in his stint, but this afternoon so far doing a fine job.
And we've got the GT Championship battle and the GT race battle all lining up here together as you see what's going on. The advantage here for the championship battle goes to the BMWs, but you can see while they may have qualified first and third, they've been moved back in this pack with the Ferrari, then the 2 Vipers, and now you're on board with Bill Aubrey.
Yeah, Bill Aubrey, he fell back, what, 3 or 4 places there at the start, didn't he? Which is unlike Bill, because that car, number 55 car, the black BMW, the black one and the white one, the black car qualified on the pole for the last 3 races now with 3 different drivers. It was Bill Aubrey who put the car on the pole at Baltimore. It was Joey Hand who put the car on pole at Circuit of the Americas a couple of weeks ago. And this weekend, it was Maxime Martin. So whoever is driving that car, it seems to be very, very fast, particularly in qualifying. But the early stages of the race, back into 4th place for Bill Aubrey.
And those Vipers are not letting that Ferrari get any kind of a lead. They are dogging them all the way, all around the track as they come back around for another lap. Now, having said that, the Ferrari does not seem to be falling back into the clutches of the Viper. That gap seems to be staying about the same.
It does, and lap times last time around, they are equitable on lap times all around about the 1 minute 48.7, 1 minute 48.8, with actually all four cars within hundredths of a second there. And it's going to be interesting to see how this, as this stint progresses, they'll be running about an hour or so before they need to make a pit stop for fuel and fresh tyres. It's going to be interesting to see in this very hot and relatively humid conditions this afternoon how long the tyres last. And I wonder whether the Vipers, as this season has progressed, we've seen the Vipers a little bit harder on their tyres than some of the other cars, particularly the Ferrari.
Yeah, they were talking about how their fuel load shifts because of the way that the tank is set into the chassis, the way their fuel load shifts and what it does to the handling of the car. Although I have to give credit to BMW with that Bill Oberlin car right there. They've done a great job of managing to stay up with that front pack. Got a tweet coming in, and it says, as Paul Newman said, if there's a heaven on earth, it is VIR. Go drive SRT, and his SRT cars are doing just fine. This is a beautiful track. Beautiful when you come into it, and there's a great set of suites, condos you might say, that are off to the side. We'll see them as we come up the track at one point in time. It's a great view as you drive around and look at this place. I can see why this literally became a kind of a gentleman's club at one point in time. It was for people to have a share of the track. That's really what brought this track back in 2000.
Indeed, and there's a bunch of different course configurations they can run here. This is the kind of the international circuit, the longest circuit that they're running on right now, but there are lots of different configurations. It's a wonderful place to go racing. I know Connie Nyholm, who is the owner and CEO here, she's got big plans for the future. They're planning to pave the paddock area next year for when the Tudor United Sports Car Series comes back here next year as part of the schedule in 2014, and other improvements as well, just bringing the track up to more, not less of a country club and more of a kind of an international race standard, if you like.
I call it a gentleman racer club, but it's a gentlewoman, gentle group
yes.
These days, as the case may be. And there you see the two Corvettes, knowing that they have that championship at stake. All they have to do is win here today. And right now they're kind of mired back where they don't want to be. The situation being in that both the 3 and the 4 cars sitting back in 6th and 7th place. And it looks like we've got some other incident that's happened. Another piece of what appears to be body work or carbon fiber that's sitting on the track just barely off the racing line. In fact, I wouldn't say it's off the racing line.
No, it's not, and that's actually not far from where our booth is here. We can't see it because we can't see out of the booth, but yeah, there's some, that's not part of the scenery. I don't think it's actually part of a race car, and it shouldn't be sitting where it is right now, but there's no other signs of any race cars in distress out on the racetrack, but we are going to go full course caution to move that debris off the racing line.
Yeah, in fact, you might have noticed that there was a chunk of tire that was sitting there as a result of the number 31 car off to the side. It was not on the racing line. They just left it there. Whatever car lost that little piece of body work, with that piece of, that's the rubber I was talking about. That's still sitting there. That wasn't a problem because it was off the racing line. That is a problem because it is right in the center of where those cars should be going. All right, let's see if we can figure out what happened.
It looks like part of diffuser. Not only was it part of diffuser, it looks like it was a part of diffuser off the championship leading car in PC. The number 52 car on the left of the screen, I think, got clipped here by the Extreme Speed Motorsports car. You can see the contact there, and that the kind of the mudguard, if you like, on the left-hand side of the car was torn off. Now, in Europe, when these cars race in Europe, if that part of the bodywork is missing, they have to by the regulations, you have to bring that car in and replace it. In the American Le Mans Series, they're a little bit less strict on those rules, and he should be allowed to continue without making a pit stop.
Meanwhile, we've got the number 23 Ferrari being driven by Bill Sweedler that has come into the pits, and they're working in the engine compartment.
Yes, and I just checked in with Alex Job Racing, and they said that they're taking a look at the transmission. It's a possible stuck brake issue is what they're evaluating at this point in time, but Bill will stay in the car, but they are losing a lot of time on pit lane at the moment.
Yeah, this, once again, 2 hours and 45 minutes, not a long race where you can spend extended time on pit lane as a result of be able to come back. There we see Patrick Dempsey right there as he continues to go around. He had a little off-course excursion yesterday. In fact, I was talking to him this morning and I said, you've been off a little bit. He goes, yeah, I've been off several times. But he says he's driven here. Last time he drove here was in 2011. He really likes driving at this track.
I think everybody likes driving this track. It's one of the driver favorites. Looks like Patrick Dempsey is perhaps fixing to get out of that car, maybe hand it over to Andy Lally. It's a pretty respectable opening stint by Patrick, running in 5th place in the class. It's Ben Keating who leads in GTC in a TRG car that he will share with Damien Faulkner. That was the winner last time out at Circuit Americas a couple of weeks ago. 2nd place is number 45, Nelson Canigé Jr., then the number 22 of Cooper McNeil, followed by the number 30 car of Enrique Cisneros, and then Patrick Dempsey.
Yeah, so far relatively trouble-free, although we've had just a couple of minor incidents. Of course, this full course yellow is a result really of contact that didn't cause the cars to go off, but caused the racing surface and the racing line to be a problem.
But certainly there was some damage to the number 52 car, and it was the contact was hard enough to tear off that left rear part of the bodywork on the 52 car, so you've got to hope there's no more damage as well. That is the car that's leading the championship for PR1 Matheson Motorsports. Michael Gouache, a gentleman driver, but a gentleman who takes his racing very, very seriously. He's super fit as well. I mean, he's a real fitness buff, and interesting talking to him at Circuit Americas a couple of weeks ago. It's really hot conditions. They're very, very hot, real physical workout, and he said even he was struggling there.
It's interesting. There's a great video on the internet. If you just go to YouTube and look for Mike Gouache, ALMS, there is a great fitness video that shows the regimen that he goes through. Now there you see the car, and you'll notice that the taillight on the right-hand side is still there. The taillight on the left-hand side is the one that is missing as a result of that chunk of the car that has come off. And the question becomes, how much is that going to affect the car as they go through the rest of the race? It's amazing to me as we see race cars when they race, they're designed a certain way, and they will continue to battle and do relatively well, but there's no question they were designed to run a certain way with downforce, with diffusers, and when you knock those off, you have to give away something at some point in time.
Yeah, that is true, and hopefully it won't cause too much problems for Mike Gouache in that car, and he can stay out there and not lose the track position. It's certainly too early to make a scheduled pit stop. In the Pro-Am classes, which PC and GTC, and actually P2, the drivers have to do the less experienced drivers, the gentleman drivers, if you like. There's actually 4 classifications: platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. And silver and bronze are kind of the amateur classes. The driver in one of those 2 categories has to complete at least 1 hour of driving in the race in order for the car to be eligible for championship points.
And Mike Gouache has made it very clear coming into this race. Yes, he has a 20-point lead over John Bennett. He knows all he has to do is score a lot of points. He can go to Petit Le Mans and still stand a great chance of winning the championship, but he would like to wrap it up here because he said, you get to Petit Le Mans, having to go 70% of the distance of Petit Le Mans is always an adventure, trying to make that happen. And so he would much rather do it here. We should point out, these are 2 cars that are getting the pass around. Remember, they were the 2 cars that had the problem. They were ahead of the lead cars, and as a result, they have gone through, they're getting around, and they'll catch up to the back of the pack. Then the pits will be open, and we'll get to see who's going to come in and make a pit stop.
Yeah, it does take a little bit longer for this wave pass procedure to take place here because it's such a long racetrack here at VIR. But certainly a great break for those 2 guys, because they will now be able to, as you say, to rejoin the back of the pack, and the disadvantages they had earlier on will now be effectively negated.
Yeah, especially for Wolf Hensler in that Falcon tire car. You know, they were going to be much faster than that. They were not the slowest of their pack as a result. Getting that grass in, having to clean off the inlets. Now they're going to catch back up to the back of the field, and essentially it'll be as if they qualified poorly, and that's about it. They'll be able to hopefully catch back up. We still have a couple of hours, 2 hours and 27 minutes left to go in this race, so they'll be able to hopefully be able to at least improve their position.
And particularly for the prototype classes in PC, they can run about 50 minutes of green flag racing. This course should now, that will enable them to extend that period. Maybe now they can stay out for that full hour, then the gentleman drivers can get out, and the professional, once they've completed that 1 hour of seat time, then the professional can take over for the final hour and 3/4 of the race. So for many of the teams in GTC as well, this caution could be very well timed.
And always on restarts, you always have the risk of seeing things shuffle around. Drivers who've had a hard time getting by on the track may be able to pull it off when they are able to do it on a restart. Now, we have multiple championships we've been talking about. There's another championship we have not talked about, and that is the Green Challenge that is taking place today. Let's talk about the fact that the goal is you want clean, you want fast, you want efficient. It's not enough just to be fast. The goal is to be environmentally sound, and those 3 things together create a point matrix that added up. The goal here is to have the lowest score possible once you factor all those things in. So the Green X Challenge going on during the course of the race, and as we get further and deeper into this program and into the race, we'll give you an idea as to how those teams are doing. But once again, that's another championship, another challenge, another points run that are going as well. Now we understand the pits are open for all cars. It'll be interesting to see if there's going to be any juggling. It's a little early normally for what you would expect teams to come in and make a pit stop for, but at the same time, you never know. Have you had a problem? Is that number 52 car going to come in and just decide that they have to fix that? My gut would say they probably would not. And we've got a big gap here that's suddenly gone between Klaus Graf and the number 16 car of Johnny Mola.
Yeah, not quite sure what that was all about, because you're supposed to maintain the speed of the safety car here, but everybody else now is going to haul up behind. I wouldn't expect to see many people onto pit lane, but I would expect a few, because we're about, 20 minutes into this race, so they've used about almost a half a tank of fuel. So particularly the guys towards the back end of the pack in each of the classes, they might think about coming in and topping off with fuel.
And as always, if you've got a car, for example, that maybe you've had a hard time getting past somebody, maybe the time now is to come in, change your positions, change onto a different fuel strategy. But still, it seems pretty early as you see the cars that have come around. That's the Oak Tree corner in the back. Now they're coming down what we call the back straightaway. But even here, the back straightaway, not completely straight.
Not completely straight. There's kind of kinks and certainly some elevation change as well. You can see going uphill now. And it's just a great racetrack all the way around here at VIR.
And don't forget, this broadcast is copyrighted by Premium Sports Car Racing, is being brought to you under license for the enjoyment of our audience. Any rebroadcast, transmission, or other use without express written consent of Premium Sports Car Racing is strictly prohibited. On board with Scott Tucker, and you talk with the team, and overall they're very impressed. I mean, he is a gentleman driver. He's an amateur. He's come on. He's done a great job of putting a team together that has all the pieces. Yes, he spent the money to do it, but you still have to find the right pieces. We've seen in other series where teams have spent a lot of money and not been able to pull it off. Let's take another look at what brought out the caution. And there you see, as that P2 car was coming up right behind the PC car, it just hit the back of that car.
And it was Anthony Lazzaro. He's been involved in a whole bunch of incidents lately, and it was Anthony Lazzaro there in that P2 car on the left hand, pulling out to the left there, slightly misjudging it, just clipping the rear of Michael Gouache's car. Gouache did a good job to keep that car completely under control, but he did lose that left rear part of the bodywork. Still under caution though here. It's still Klaus Graf who leads at the front of the field for Muscle Milk Pickett Racing, followed by Johnny Molan.
Now, the S is at VIR and the track signature turn. Let's take a look at how it goes in the new Corvette C7.
Hi, I'm Tommy Milner. I drive the number 4 Corvette C6R. Let's go for a ride of my favorite corners here at VIR, the S's. Let's go. So here we go, approaching the S's at VIR. Super, super quick series of corners. You got to prepare yourself really early, eyes up. Use all the curbs. Flat across the first left here. Looking up over the curb, over the crest of the hill, touch that curb, touch the next curb here. And if you've done that right, you've set up just right for this long right. To set up now, again, braking hard, down 1 gear, across the curb. Can't see the exit, look for the curb, there on the exit, just touch it. And there's the S's, flat out. And if you get that right, you definitely have a great lap here at VIR.
A great lap in a C7. Also, if you happen to be driving around in one of the older C6 versions of the race car, their battle, of course, is to get up and make sure that they are in contention. You know, they've made it very clear their car is not the fastest car, but what you saw at Circuit of America was they did a great job, despite the fact that they were not the fastest car and were able to win that car. All right, we did have some early pit stops, as it turns out. Let's find out what happened with Kelly.
Well, we saw both the 3 and 4 Corvettes come in. They both got fuel and some fresh Michelin tires. There's been no secret that they've really struggled with setup this week, and they can't figure it out. They can't figure out why they're down on pace, and one of the concerns was tire wear. So those Corvettes now going out with some fresh Michelin rubber to put down, Jamie.
Well, both the BMWs, the number 55 and number 56, came in for identical pit stops. It was fuel and tires for both of them. The number 55, however, got out of pit lane a lot easier than the number 56, but there was just a little bit of a stall getting him refired, and he did lose a couple of positions leaving pit lane, but nonetheless, they do have fresh tires and fuel underneath them.
riding on board there for just a moment with where you were able to see the Falcon Tire car. And you see the group as they're getting together. Now let's take another look. This is the start where the Falcon Tire car had its problem. You saw just the Corvette just moving over. I don't think there was any contact, but only because of he avoided the contact.
He did. Here's a good shot from the overview there, and you can see that the Core Autosport Porsche was directly in front of the Corvette, and the Corvette kind of sort of looked to the outside, but unfortunately Wolf Hensler was already there, and he had to go off course to make sure there was no contact between those two. But I think no harm, no foul there. Now he's come in. They topped it off with fuel while he was into the pits cleaning out the radiator, so he's
green flag, green flag.
Yeah, now he's put himself into a situation where he's 6th in class. Actually kind of moved himself up just a little bit. And we are racing again. The green flag is out at Virginia International Raceway. And the Dyson car not capable of sticking up with the Muscle Milk car with Klaus Graf. That's a chance you've got to be able to take. You've got to take advantage of those restarts, and they weren't able to do it right there, Jeremy.
No, they weren't. And once again, Johnny Mullen a little bit slow on the uptake there and losing out already to Klaus Graf, who's going to whistle away in the distance. But look at this lot. Fantastic battle going on here. We saw the SRT Viper team. They split their strategies. One car came into the pits, the other one didn't. The class leader, Olivier Beretta in the Ferrari, he did not make a pit stop, nor did Bryce Miller in the number 48 Porsche. Most of the other GT contenders did. Yeah, so it's different strategies there among the GT field. Fascinating to see how this unfolds.
Yeah, now the problem that everybody has pointed out is when you're behind cars, you can lose a lot of time if you're in the wrong position. Wow, as they go by, it's a great view of the speed shot. We got a camera mounted down there. You see, it's a great view of the S's as well. We talked about the manufacturer's point. We really want to also talk about the driver's point. And this changed significantly after the Circuit of the Americas race, with Antonio Garcia and Jan Magnussen able to win that race and their other team car not able to finish.
Yeah, and it's been a real turnaround season for the number 3 guys, Jan Magnussen and Antonio Garcia. They failed to finish the first round of the season at Sebring, the 12 hours of Sebring, so they had 0 points when their teammates Oliver Gavin and Tommy Milner, they scored 24 there, but they've come all the way back from that and now have a handy lead with just 2 races to go.
Well, riding on board there was Stefan Johansson, and he was coming up beside the number 48 Porsche. And, you know, you've got a big pack of cars, and you just got to make sure that he wasn't at that point. Could he see me? Could he not see me? How much do you want to risk? We've got 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th in the GT division right there. Take a look. We've got the Bill Auberlen BMW. Then you've got the Falcon Tire car being driven by Wolf Hensler. Then you've got the 2 Corvettes. Wolf Hensler seemed to go just a little bit wide there, but the 2 Corvettes weren't able to take advantage, and there the number 3 car being driven by Antonio Garcia starts to take a look at the inside of his team car. He's sliding underneath, and he's got a Viper right on his tail.
Yeah, this is great battling here. You can see right ahead of those 2 is the Falcon Tires Porsche that stopped early on but did not stop during this caution period. So that is why the blue car is ahead of the 2 Corvettes, and the 2 Corvettes here, they are battling for position. And as far as the team is concerned, Doug Feehan, the program director there at Corvette Racing, he doesn't care what happens in the Drivers' Championship. All he cares about is that Chevrolet and Corvette wins the Manufacturers' Championship, the Teams' Championship, and everything along that goes with that. But as long as the orders are, as long as they don't run into each other, he's okay. Kelly Stavast is in the pit lane.
Fantastic racing playing out between the 2 Corvettes. Of course, that number 3 Corvette leads the championship, but the main goal is to grab that manufacturer's title. I talked to Tommy Milner. He said that's goal number 1, but there are no team orders. We are both allowed to go for this win. And he said, however, we shouldn't push each other too hard, although they're certainly doing it now.
Oh my gosh, we have a championship issue on the track right now. Mike Wash, that black and blue car, and he is seeing red right now. You saw he came together with the number 18 car. You see they came together. We didn't see what led into it. Both of them sitting off to the side. And this Ryan Booth in that number 18 car, this has huge championship issues right now. If Mike Wash cannot get that car restarted, if he can't go a full hour, if they can't go 70% of the distance, the good news is the car's refired.
GCS, shut it off, put your foot on the clutch and downshift to first. Car's on.
Now that's the problem with the number 18 car. They're trying to get restarted, but you see the 52 car damaged, but back out on track.
Yeah, damage to the left front corner now, to go along with the damage on the left rear corner that was caused earlier on when he was run into by Anthony Lazzaro. And the radio communication there was Brent O'Neill, who is the team director for Performance Tech Motorsports, on the radio to Ryan Booth to tell him, try and instruct him how to get that car back out onto the racetrack.
Meanwhile, we do not have a full course yellow. They are still racing out on the racetrack. You see Antonio Garcia, that's the view from his car, coming up at that number 48 Porsche to the left. He's trying to work hard to stay up with the BMWs. Meanwhile, we've got the Viper trying to get around and see if he can figure out a way. That number 22 car off to the side is a GT Challenge car, not in the same class.
Great battling here amongst the GT field. There's nothing to choose between these 5 manufacturers. We've seen it all season long, just tremendous motor racing. And now this afternoon, the battle continues, and they're on different strategies as well. So there's a lot to be playing out this afternoon in the remaining 2 hours and 15 minutes of this race. But it's incredible. We did not go to a full course caution. Not sure whether the number 18 car has got back underway again.
And that's the 05 car being driven by John Bennett. That is the other protagonist in the championship battle for PC. And I'm sure they have gotten on the radio and they have told him that Mike Wash has a problem. Your job now is to get up, win this race if you can, but make sure you do as well as possible. And his job now is to make sure everybody knows you've got Mike Wash with the field coming by him. He's slowly trying to get back to pit lane. Let's take a look at what happened and caused this incident. We saw the aftermath. Let's see what led up to it.
Yeah, both these guys had been in the pits during that previous caution period. Here they are side by side, coming up through the S's. Yeah, and neither wanted to give each other an inch of room there, basically.
But here's the thing. When you're running for a championship, while you may be competitive, you may be working hard, at some point you have to say it's better to give up the position and continue to race. But I know Mike Wash is so competitive. Look as they bang back and forth, and then finally they come together and go off the track.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how that was called. Both of them make pretty stout contact with the barriers there, and it was a big impact down there.
That 52 car finally working its way into pit lane, and Kelly's going to be there.
Well, after the 52 dodged the bullet earlier this race with some contact, this one is going to be costly. The team has already taken its spare nose and front splitter on a car back to the paddock, so I suspect as soon as they limp this car around, it will be going behind the wall for some extensive repairs. Certainly not what this team wanted. They were hoping to make their lives in this championship hunt easier headed into Petit, but this is going to be a lengthy repair.
And what we can see from the outside is that left rear tire is kind of tilted to one side. There is suspension damage. There's serious, not just bodywork damage here to that car. And there we see the other car, the number 18 car, that it's working its way around. No word as to whether they have greater damage. You saw the bodywork issues, and there's the team going back to work on it. Remember, the goal is to finish 70% of the distance so they can at least score points. They've got a lot of work to do. Meanwhile, we're going to take a quick break, come back to more racing here at Virginia International Raceway.
Battery Tender battery chargers. Just like the everyday consumer, the racing community knows the importance of a healthy charge. Deltran Battery Tender is the trusted charger for some of the most respected brands in the world today. Don't let a dead battery ruin your fun or work. If you can't start it, you can't drive it. Connect a Deltran Battery Tender battery charger to all of your batteries. Available at these fine retailers. If it's not a Deltran Battery Tender, it's just a pretender.
We all know what a horseless carriage is. Had to ride in the back of them with parents that could never give us a satisfactory answer to the question, are we almost there yet? And we long for the day when we could get portraits of our zit-ridden faces laminated onto plastic cards that would give us the authority to cruise up and down Main Street and burn a little rubber without any adult supervision. The average 16-year-old boy in America would rather have his own set of wheels than make out with the captain of the varsity cheerleader squad. How can we desire a machine more than another human being? Every driving machine has a body, but for a cube of metal to become a living, breathing entity worthy of our passion, it must have a soul. So it is up to the maker of the machine to breathe life into its creation. The machine cannot say it's greater than the maker, nor can the maker say the machine is beneath him, because through the process, the two have become one.
rated E for everyone.
We dream of speed, of pushing to the limit and beyond. We dream of racing the ghosts of history, of perfect passes and podium finishes. We dream to compete. We dream to win.
Xbox 360, starting at $99.
Everything we ever thought up. Everything we fight for. Everything we dream of. Everything we are. The 911. Porsche identity.
Welcome back to Virginia International Raceway. A warm day on and off the track, and I have to think that right now Mike Gouache has seeing red as we see the work that is going on pit lane on the number 18 car, the other car that was involved in this incident. Let's go down to Jamie.
Well, initially the team thought it might be as simple as coming in and replacing that front splitter, but that was not the case. It is broken suspension on the front left of the car. They do have the parts and pieces out here to fix it. The problem, though, is very costly in the time frame that they have. So as we've talked about, drive time is pretty important in the PC category. Ryan Booth has to do 60 minutes in order for this car to earn some points, and when he's sitting here on pit lane, he's not getting any points. So the team hard at work right now, hurriedly going through this and hopefully getting him back out there so that Tristan Nunez can get in the car and he can earn those championship points, hoping to make up some ground today.
Yeah, important to point out Tristan Nunez really tied with Jonathan Bennett for that position in PC, and this is going to hurt him in his bid to have in whatever championship battle he's going to have. Meanwhile, in P2, there we've got the battle that is on the track between Scott Tucker and Anthony Lazzaro. That 0-1 car that needed to move up because of the championship battle has done just that.
It has indeed, and right behind them too now also is Stefan Johansson, who's got past Ed Brown a couple of laps ago. You can see now 1, 2, 3, the leaders in P2, just behind the number 0 car. That is Andy Merrick, who's got the Delta Wing Coupe up into 3rd place overall starting this race. So it's P1's 1st, 2nd and 3rd overall, and then these this trio of P2 cars here, the 3 HPDs, the 551, Scott Tucker aboard, Anthony Lazzaro the 0-1, and Stefan Johansson, who did make a pit stop during that caution period in the 552.
Scott Tucker going for that championship and the 0-1 car with Anthony Lazzaro on board right now, but we know later who's going to get in that car, and that has championship implications. We haven't talked about that turn. That is Oak Tree turn right there, and the Oak Tree is gone.
It has gone, and it's completely changed the perspective of the drivers there. That big Oak Tree was right on the inside of the corner, kind of on the apex there, and it was a real, it was a major reference point, obviously, not necessarily in terms of the driving styles, but it's a very distinctive part of the racetrack, and you very much notice it when you're driving race cars around here. So to have it not there anymore is very, very strange for the drivers.
Yeah, this is the car, the 0-1 car. Once again, that's the Patron car, the green and black car that's being driven right now by Anthony Lazzaro. But Scott Sharp will climb into that car. And when we were talking with the team earlier this week, they made it very clear all they care about is the 2-point difference between Scott Tucker and Scott Sharp. They know what they're battling for to win the championship, and that's the guy who's in the 551 car that's just ahead of him in the black helmet.
I love it here. We've got some seriously experienced drivers. We've got 51-year-old Scott Tucker leading from 50-year-old Anthony Lazzaro and 57-year-old Stefan Johansson. They're running in 3rd place and having a great battle as well.
Funny how we like those 50-year-old guys. Interesting to point out that car that's just ahead of them too. You know, that is the Delta Wing car that's gone through some major changes this year.
Yeah, a completely new car built up. This is just the 2nd outing for the Delta Wing Coupe. It made its debut a couple of weeks ago at Circuit of the Americas. Had a little bit of testing before that, but yeah, they started off this season with a steep development curve with a new Elan engine, new Bridgestone tires, and now a completely new development development exercise starting with a Delta Wing coupe. It's much more slippery in a straight line. It's faster on a straight line, but it certainly did lose a little bit of rear downforce with the change from the Roadster to the coupe version. But overall, the car's working well, but they really are just learning it and trying to improve it race by race.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the P1 division, but ultimately it's a development car. And the question here is that Delta Wing car holding up the P2s?
Could be. You see on the straightaway there, pulls out a little bit, does Andy Merrick in the Delta Wing, and under braking, the P2 cars all close in again. And, you know, as I say, it's very early in this car's gestation period, the Delta Wing, so they are learning what it wants, what it needs to make it go faster, and they're bringing constant developments all the time. The air scoop on the top of the coupe, that is new for this weekend. There's some various other bits and bobs that have changed on that car as well. Look at here now, Anthony Lazzaro making a move for the lead in P2.
Lazzaro goes to the outside, and that's the problem, because there's a turn on the inside, and he looks like he's going to be caught out because he doesn't have the ability to go around. It's great to move side by side, but when the next turn is to the right and you're on the left side, you just don't have the position.
Yeah, and you can't afford to make a mistake here. For Scott Sharp and for Anthony Lazzaro in that 0-1 car, they have to finish this race in order to score points, because they need to make up points on Scott Tucker. That is what they need to beat Scott Tucker, because Scott Tucker has so many options up his sleeve with the two cars. For Scott Tucker, he's just got to finish this race. If he scores good points here, then he is in good shape for the championship. But he has the first goal for Scott Tucker is to get to that 70% distance.
Meanwhile, Stefan Johansson sort of sits in the back and watches and waits, trying to decide what he has to do. Of course, you know, a solid driver is not going to do anything he shouldn't be doing with regards to that car in the middle, but you know what the team orders are, and the team orders are to make sure that that 551 car wins the championship. Now they come up behind one of the GTC cars, and this is going to complicate things for this battle.
It certainly is, and is Anthony Lazzaro going to make a move? I'm sure we'll see Scott Tucker glance into his mirrors. There he is to the right, and probably look to the left as well as they come up the hill here, but no, Anthony Lazzaro not close enough here to make a move into turn 14. This tricky over a crest and then this downhill series of corners towards the end of this lap.
Now this is the last place where they were able to, Anthony Lazzaro was able to catch up and try to make the move going onto that front straightaway with a little bit of a dog leg in it. And then we got the Muscle Milk car, the leading car off the track, the one being driven by Klaus Graf. Don't know what caused it, but he has gone off course up there at the Oak Tree turn.
Yeah, there's that corner going into the Oak Tree. It's a double right-hander there, and we've seen an awful lot of cars off at the first part of that corner. But it looked like, to me, he was off perhaps even before that, because he ended up kind of straight on there. It's a very strange place to go off. I don't know whether there was contact, but certainly interesting to me is Klaus Graf. I think he'd been pacing himself at the front of the field. Johnny Molan was hanging tough there, only about 5 seconds behind. So I would imagine with that off there for Klaus Graf, perhaps that's allowed Johnny Molan to get back into the lead of the race.
Getting back to that PC battle, and the battle where they had the two cars between the 18 and the 52 car that had their problem. We understand the 18 car is going to get a penalty for avoidable contact. Now let's take a look and see what happened. Yes, indeed, there was another car involved. It looks like one of those Porsches, and Klaus Graf just went off. And it's relatively safe to go off here, except you pick up so much stuff.
Yeah, it was number 48, Chopard Watch. Look at this.
And there we have the 01 car that has taken the P2 lead as he goes around.
A great move there by Anthony Lazzaro. You know, for Lazzaro here, he has to win this race, really. And you know, what happens if there's contact between himself and the under 551 car? As long as it's not blatant contact, then you know that's fine. Because Scott Tucker, he has to play it a little bit more conservative. He's got more options in terms of trying to win this championship, as long as he gets to that 70% as we were talking about a few minutes ago. For Anthony Lazzaro here, who will hand over that 0-1 car to Scott Sharp, it's basically attack, attack, attack.
What we're not going to see is Stefan Johansson doing the attack on Scott Tucker. The team has been very upfront that the goal is to win the championship for Scott Tucker, to give him that 10th national championship. See Anthony Lazzaro trying to make a move on that Delta Wing. Remember, they're in different classes, but he's got this battle. He's trying to go on the inside. Now they've got to be able to not do without getting in trouble. Oh, there's contact between the two cars.
I'm not quite sure what Andy Merrick is thinking about there, because clearly Lazzaro, I think, is faster. And as you say, they're in different classes. Clearly the 01 car was faster through that corner. I'm not quite sure why Andy Merrick really didn't let him go there. Wasn't much to gain, I don't think, by keeping, trying to hold him off and just block him effectively through this sequence of corners here, but there was a little bit of contact in between those two cars. Hopefully, though, it won't be lead to any further consequences.
I mean, the Delta Wing car is really a development car. It's not racing against anybody. It's not racing for a championship. You have a massive championship issue right behind you, and as a result, why not just get out of the way and let that Anthony Lazzaro car move by, and you can see how close it came to having a problem. And now the other P1 car that would have been either in the lead or close to it in the lead has gone off as well, but it doesn't look like he has lost the lead because it looked like he was able to get back on the course very quickly. That is the car being driven by Johnny Molan, the Dyson Team Racing car. It's that Lola Mazda powered machine. The question is, how long did it go off, and did he do any damage? We want to see exactly what caused it to go off. Yeah. Oh, and it's just apparently all by himself. He locks it up on his own.
Got the rear brakes locked up a little bit there, got the car sideways under braking, and he's now just trying to fight his way back onto the asphalt. Once again, dragging an awful lot of dirt back onto the racetrack.
And there is the penalty being served by the 18 car.
Well, that's good news and bad news. The good news is that they've got the repairs made on that car. Now, though, they have to serve a 1-minute penalty before they're able to rejoin this race.
But the significant thing is they are going to be able to get back out on the track. They're going to be able to score points and potentially keep themselves in the championship battle. The bigger problem is for the 52 car. They're still in the back working on that. There is the car that is in second place right now, Klaus Graf, trying to do what he can to catch up to the leader, Johnny Molan, in that number 16 car. Right now, he's got the Risi Ferrari right behind him. Right, so they're in between. He's going to get around him pretty quickly, and he has that Dyson car in his sights. How long will it take for him to reel that in?
Not long, I think. I think it won't take long at all, Rick, because I think Klaus Graf has been kind of driving within himself, I think. Perhaps a little bit of lapse of concentration up there going into the Oak Tree Tournament. He was trying to go around the outside of the number 48 Porsche up there, and wasn't able to get the pass done and ran off the road there. Again, no harm, no foul, so he's able to continue. This is the part of the racetrack here. You can see it curves into the right here. There's the first apex, drift out to the left of the track, and then the second apex. That is where the Oak Tree used to be, on the right-hand side of the racetrack, as we ride on board with Scott Tucker.
Look at the gap that has developed between Scott Tucker and that Anthony Lazzaro machine, the 01 machine that is much further ahead. In fact, it's hard to tell how many cars are up in that group, but he's definitely losing time, losing distance. So he's got to do everything he can. The advantage that Scott Tucker has is when he does his 60 minutes, when he comes in, he's going to hand that car over to Ryan Briscoe.
That's exactly right, he is. And it looks like Stefan Johansson actually has gone past Scott Tucker here, so he's up into second place. There is our GTC leader, Ben Keating, the TRG car number 66. That's the car that won a couple of weeks ago. They've had a very much an up and down season with more downs than ups, but it was very much up at Circuit of the Americas. Damien Faulkner put the car on the pole, came away with a great victory, passing Sean Edwards in the number 30 car in the late stages of the race. This, though, is the other championship contender, Nelson Canache Jr., and he will hand over to Spencer Pompelli in that number 45 Flying Lizard car.
Yeah, I was talking with Ben Keating this morning. He talked about how much he loves this track. He races Vipers in other series, and he was saying in his last 8 trips to this track, he has won 7 times and finished second once. He loves the track. He knows how to race here. So, yes, he's the gentleman driver in this package. When Damien Faulkner gets in, he'll be the professional, but he knows how to do it, and he knows how to win here. And there is a second penalty that has been attached to the number 18 car as a result of the fact that they had a supervisor working on the car, someone extra over the pit wall.
Yeah, so 2 penalties there for number 18 car, but they're kind of out of contention here for the win now in the class. They lost, what, about 6 or 7 laps making that repair, and the number 52 car, the other championship protagonist, the championship leader, number 52, is still in the garage being worked on.
But here you have the championship between these two guys, these two teams, and they are right beside each other on the track. That first car being driven by Ben Keating, the one behind by Nelson Panache. That this is the battle for GTC. It's very appropriate they should be right next to each other.
Yeah, and TRG, it's been like I say, it's been a tough season, but they're making really strong inroads here, and it's a great run again by Ben Keating. I think it was he needed a good run at Circuit Americas. That was his home turf in Texas, and he performed very, very well there. I think he was running in second place when he handed it over to Damien Faulkner, but he certainly led a good portion of that race. He's done exactly the same here this afternoon. Fine drive by Ben Keating, because he made a whole bunch of mistakes in the middle of the season, it has to be said, but he's putting all that behind him right here at VIR.
Back on board with Scott Tucker. Remember, he has to do a 1 hour minimum time, and he is now let the other car, driven by Stefan Johansson, go do battle with the other 01 car. This is the lead battle for the P2 division, and they still have that Delta Wing car that is ahead of them. Meanwhile, we got a battle for the lead of the race between the number 16 Dyson car being driven by Johnny Mullen and Klaus Graf, who looks like he's working really hard trying to get that Muscle Milk car by.
Yeah, both of these guys have been off the road, so they got dirt all over their tires, and so it's, like I said earlier on, it's already a slippery racetrack here, not a high grip asphalt here at VIR, and with all the dirt and dust that's been dragged on, and the dirt and dust on these tires, and once they went off the road, it's even more treacherous out there. Now with two different class cars in front of us, the GTC car and the PC car, which they have to work their way around.
And we're going 3 wide in a place we shouldn't be doing. They almost contact. They've got a situation where Dyson goes off the track very slightly because of that contact, where if close contact with the PC car, now Klaus Graf has to get by, but you see the gap that is caused between the Dyson car and the Klaus Graf, the Muscle Milk car, as a result of having that traffic.
Yeah, that was Chris Cumming there, the leader for Bar 1 Motorsports in the PC class, the car number 8. It's actually Bar 1 running first and second in the class, with James French running a fine second place, only about 3 or 4 seconds back. So a great run so far for Bar 1 Motorsports. They scored the first win of the season with Chris Cumming and Carl Marcelli just a couple of weeks ago.
Boy, what a great battle. And you saw how Klaus Graf was able to catch up so quickly. Catching up and passing are two very different things. And the problem is, we've talked to a lot of drivers this weekend, and they make it very clear, when you get stuck behind a car at the wrong place, you can lose 2, 3, 4 seconds in a lap, but then you have to work hard to catch up. Now let's look at when they go 3 wide right here.
Yeah, and Chris Cumming there is in the middle of the road and edging across to the left-hand side of the track, and Johnny Mullen is already trying to go around him there. So I think let's have a look at it on board here with Johnny Mullen. All of a sudden he finds himself on the grass at about 150 miles an hour. But I don't think there was any significant contact. And the runoff, one of the things about the characteristics about this racetrack is, off the side of the racetrack, it's pretty smooth. Unlike many other racetracks in this country, the runoff areas here are pretty smooth, and several drivers have remarked on that during the course of the weekend because they know from first-hand experience.
Yeah, very driven. You think about the last 2 tracks and this track that they've been at. 2 races ago, they were in Baltimore. You've got a concrete jungle. A race ago, they were at Circuit of the Americas, where they had massive runoff with concrete, and now they're on this track, narrow and then grass off to the side. And the number 52 car, driven by Mike Wash, has now come back onto pit lane and is going back out into the race. Yes, they are significantly down, but the significance is if he can go the 70%, he will still hopefully be able to get points that will be significant in the points battle when they go into Petit Le Mans.
Yeah, and what's interesting here is that the car is great work there by PR1 Matheson Motorsports. They'll have had that car on a pad. You can see there's a new tail on that section on that car as well. They've made the repairs to the left rear suspension and the right front suspension as well.
And one of the things that they have to be very cautious with is they need to make sure that they get gouache 1 hour and don't short themselves. We've seen it happen where you go 1 minute too short because, once again, it's easy when you're just going 60 minutes straight through. But if, for example, you shorten up, you have a break, you come back out, you need to make sure that you do that full 60 minutes so that you get the full points.
Yeah, because gouache here, 25 minutes of this stint to set behind the wall. That does not count towards his 1 hour.
Back on board with Johnny Mullen as you see him there working as he goes through. Coming up on back markers. Yeah, I didn't, we weren't expecting to see a battle in a P1 division coming into this race, and instead, that's exactly what we've had.
Yeah, and certainly a good stint here. He was a bit conservative in the early stages, was Johnny Mullen, but he's got to grips with this car. He's turned some pretty good laps. His best lap so far under 1 minute 40.
Now let's talk about the fact that tire manufacturers now have an expanded range of measurement and testing capabilities thanks to a new research center here at VIR.
The National Tire Research Center here at VIR houses the only flat-track tire testing machine in the country that's capable of simulating the loads, the speeds, and the torque of different race cars in different race conditions. The LTRE generates data to help understand how different tire designs and compounds generate cornering performance, braking, and even traction. That data can then be used in modeling tools to predict tire performance of future design changes, or even to help the race teams with their simulations, which includes their pre-event setup so that the car is quick right off of the truck. So basically, engineers can race a tire as if it were on a specific car and track with a high level of precision in a repeatable manner, which results in a more consistent tire.
Really an amazing machine that can recreate the conditions of a racetrack. Amazing to watch that. Back on board with Scott Tucker. He still has a little bit longer he has to go. Remember, you got to go about an hour. The race is almost an hour into it. I'd say he's got to go a little bit harder, and then he can turn that car over to his teammate, Ryan Briscoe, who can hopefully then close that gap and make a difference. Meanwhile, there's the leader in the P2 division. That's the 01 car, and there's Tucker. You see how far back he is, but realizing there's a potential for yellow flags. You're going to have Ryan Briscoe coming in and hopping in this car. I don't think that's a huge gap.
No, it certainly isn't, because Ryan Briscoe is super fast. He's had the car on the pole position this weekend. He's had 5 poles this season, so he knows how to drive that car fast. And yeah, he's got to be odds-on favourite to win this race, but not if the 01 guys have anything to do with it. It's still Anthony Lazzara who leads.
Back in the GTC division, Ben Keating continues to lead, and there is the car that they're competing for with the championship. Those drivers right there, the second place car, that is the number 45 car being driven by Nelson Canache. And it's a great battle, although we have not seen it change very much. It seems to be consistent with Nelson back here, always within sight of that number 66 car, but not able to reel him in.
That's right. 66 car really isn't in championship contention now as a result of the problems they had earlier on. But the important thing for Nelson Canache here is that he's well ahead now of Cooper McNeil in number 22 car. Cooper McNeil right back in 5th place, and the other championship contender, number 30, Enrique Cisneros, is in 4th place. So we've got the championship contenders in 2nd, 4th, and 5th. So they're right in that back in the mix of that battle there, and they're in 3rd place in the class is Kuba Gibenjek. Here he is right now in the number 31 car. He's the guy had the problem on the 2nd lap of the race. Came in, changed the tire, and then he drove up through the field from there.
Impressive that he's been able to work his way back up in through the field, having a battle with Enrique Cisneros, who's in the 30 car. And look at the action on the track. The number 22 car right there being driven by Cooper McNeil. This was just a little bit earlier as they go through that section, and he's getting a little bit of a nudge saying, you know, I can come through here.
Yeah, Cooper McNeil, I was going to say.
Side-by-side connection. And then the number 33, the number 30 car being driven by Enrique Cisneros is able to work its way through. Let's take another look at it. There you see that Cooper McNeil car just up front.
Yeah, he's trying to defend the line there to the inside, and Cisneros says, thank you very much indeed. I'll have some of that, and he gets past both of them in one swell swoop there. So I'm not so sure that was a particularly bright move there by Cooper McNeil. He must have seen that number 31 car had been catching him pretty quickly. He come from the back of the pack and was working his way forward. He's kind of the spoiler in the pack here, because the 31 car is not in championship contention, but the car immediately behind him, his teammate, number 30 car, and is now in front, is.
And meanwhile, we should point out that number 31 car being driven by Kuba has worked its way back up into the lead, and now we're back up at the front of the race. The 2 P1 cars, the Muscle Milk car, and we see that the Dyson car is going in for a pit stop. Johnny Mullen going in. It looked like he was about to make a pass. Klaus Graf was, but instead it was all because this car was slowing down to pull onto pit lane. Johnny Mullen bringing the Dyson machine, the Mazda powered machine. And do we have a problem back there? Hard to tell. We'll take a look. Jamie's down there. We're going to find out what's going on.
This is not what the team was prepared for either. They're prepared for a full service pit stop where they are going to do a driver change. They do use a seat insert, so a different seat going into that car for Guy Smith to climb behind the wheel. These two don't drive together very often. I don't see any damage, any substantial damage on the back of the number 16, so it looks like it might be a pretty clean, oh, I do, there, the legality panel on the back, you see right behind the right rear, there's a panel behind that rear tire. There's not one behind the left rear. It'll be interesting to see what the officials have to say about this. Nonetheless, team going through their pace. It's a well orchestrated pit stop finish. Back out.
And we understand that according to the officials, they do not have to come in and put a new piece on to put him up to the original specs that they went out on. As you were mentioning, in Europe, it's a different rule. Over in the United States, they're allowed to run that way. The only problem is he's got a piece of bodywork that is flapping in the back, which could potentially be an aerodynamic problem. And we've got a problem with the number 45 car, one of the Flying Lizard cars, that has gone off course and is trying to get back on.
Again, one of the championship contenders, that's Nelson Canache Jr., who's running in second place in the class, and I think he was coming under pressure.
And look at all the grass on the inlet. That's been a problem. We saw that earlier with that number 17 car when it went off course, and as a result, you run the risk of just driving up the temperatures and causing problems.
Yeah, that's not what that team needs in championship contention. So he's going to have to keep a very close eye on the temperature gauges of that Porsche.
All right, let's take a look and figure out what happened. On board, you've got battles up ahead, but apparently either he was tapped from behind or he just cooked it going into the turn.
I fancy just left his braking a little bit too late down there and away off the road. We've seen a lot of cars doing that earlier on. You can see we're on board here with Kuba Gamaziak, and there goes Nelson Canache off the road to the left-hand side. So a mistake there from the second place car in the championship.
Yeah, and you saw the tires just light up very slightly, and then the next thing you know, he was going off. And when you're battling for a championship, that is not what you want to do. We're going to take a quick break here at Virginia International Raceway. Battles in every class, battles in every division. This is the race you want to see.
You did it. You solved Corman's enigma. How did you do it, Professor?
Professor? No, I'm not a professor. I'm just here to see my daughter. She's a dance major. But I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Stay smart. Stay at a Holiday Inn Express.
Doc? Doc? Goose!
Our technology builds some of the best tires in the world, because when it comes to performance, we don't just play around.
Cheater, we said no 360s.
Who's up for some leapfrog?
Everything we ever thought up. Everything we fight for. Everything we dream of. Everything we are. The 911. Porsche identity.
Rated E for everyone. We dream of speed, of pushing to the limit and beyond. We dream of racing the ghosts of history, of perfect passes and podium finishes. We dream to compete. We dream to win.
Xbox 360, starting at $99.
Now relax. Let the qi flow from the inner Zhang Fu organs outwards as the needles open your meridians.
Oh, it feels so good. I really thought the needles would hurt.
So did I. I hate needles.
That must make it hard to do what you do.
Oh, not really. I deliver paninis. He's the acupuncturist. But I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Oh.
Stay smart. Stay at a Holiday Inn Express.
Welcome back to Virginia International Raceway. Beautiful rolling hills, and we've got a problem of fire on the O2 car as they've just come into the pits.
And there's a reason everybody on pit lane wears fire protective gear, guys. There was a lot of flame down here. Johannes van Overbeek had just climbed behind the wheel of the number 02 when there was a fuel fire coming out of the side of that car. They did use the extinguisher to put the fire out. However, it did get Johannes, who was sitting in the car, so he has now got back out of the car. The team addressing this issue, but I want to say thanks to everybody who makes all the safety gear that everybody down here wears, because it certainly helped this crew out today.
Let's take a look at the pit stop from the onboard camera. There you see Ed Brown getting out of the car. Johannes van Overbeek starting to get into the car. We can't see the engine compartment, but we can watch the reaction probably in just a moment of Johannes as they're starting to buckle him in. The job of, and there you see the actual flames coming up over the side. You see the crew member going off, and now Johannes van Overbeek. I'm always amazed at how many drivers will sit there and wait until they get the word as to whether they want me to stay or not. I see flames, but what do you think? Should I go or not?
Yeah, man, that's a scary moment there in the Extreme Speed Motorsport pit. A lot of fire down there, and clearly you can see one of the crew guys, there's actually some flame on his overalls there, but he's not worried because these suits these days are so good. It's incredible the technology now that goes into these race suits.
And it's important to point out that the pit stops in America Le Mans are done specifically so that you do the fueling first. You're not working on the car. You don't have more guys over the wall at the same time. And so it is a safer situation. And we've got the number 62 car that has now come in. Olivia Beretta gets out of the car, and Matteo Malicelli is going to get in the car. This car was in second place in the GT division when they made this pit stop. And there I was pointing out, you fuel first, and then you start working on the car. The fuel has just gone in, and now they work on the car.
Yeah, and Olivia Beretta, he lost the lead in the class to the Viper of Kuno Whitmer, was he? He had a fantastic, again, opening stint there. And now I think pretty much at the first opportunity, the Racing Competizione team taking the opportunity to hand over to Matteo Malicelli, who qualified second fastest in this car, had a great run also at Circuit of the Americas. Malicelli, clearly the faster driver in that team. He will now take this car to the checkered flag.
Meanwhile, we've got the BMW, the number 55 car that was being driven by Bill Oberlin that has come in, and the PC leader has also come in. Chris Cumming getting out of the car. That's the car, the VAR car, where they're trying to do as well as they can today. Running fairly clean, with the exception of the fact they did have a slight coming together, very minor.
They did indeed, but and once again for the second race in succession, excellent first stint by Chris Cumming.
And we've got a problem on the number 55 car with the door, Jamie.
Yep, they have already done the fuel, tires, and the driver change, so Maxime Martin is now in the car. However, they could not get the door shut. Bill Oberlin tried for several seconds to do it. Now a crew member has stepped in trying to get it done. They do have a spare door out and ready, but guys, think about the Manufacturers Championship. They need to win a race. One of these BMWs has to win this race in order for this to stay alive. And losing this time on pit lane, I can tell you the number 55 is going to have a tough way to go if they wanted to be at the top step of the podium.
And this was the BMW that was leading the two BMWs for them. It's impressive that they've got another door. It's impressive they'd be able to put it on relatively quickly, but this is not Sebring. This is not Petit Le Mans. You do not want to have a problem. And we understand that there's also going to be a problem with the 4 car getting a penalty because of contact with the number 66 car.
Man, it's all gone wrong for the number 4 guys. Oliver Gavin and Tommy Milner. They had a disaster at Circuit Americas 2 weeks ago. The gearbox broke. They didn't score any points at all. They've been leading the GT points battle up until then, and now a penalty for some contact between themselves and the number 66 car that had been leading in GTC. Ben Keating has handed that car over to Damien Faulkner.
And the frustration continues in the BMW pit. When they sit there, you look at the driver looking out, looking at the fact that they are working. There's nothing he can do. He sits there and hopes that something can be done. Meanwhile, here's the number 4 car. We told you about the penalty. Let's take a look at the contact that happened between the 4 car and the 66 car. We're only going to see the very end of it. We don't see how it started, but the bottom line is both of them slid off to the side, and the number 66 car coming into the pits. That was where that happened. I'm going to guess that what happened was it was a situation where he was slowing down to come in, and the number 4 car just probably didn't realize it.
Yeah, maybe the 4 car was already committed to try and pass him on the inside, trying to sneak down the inside.
And we've got a problem with, this is the 02. This is the 02 car.
That's the car that had the problem in the pit lane. Johannes van Overbeek there. He's got some, clearly has got a problem at the far end of the racetrack. This is kind of the there's the south circuit here and the north circuit. There's a separate pit lane at the far end from where the real pit lane is for the American Le Mans Series, but this car clearly has come to a halt.
Meanwhile, the 93 car being driven by Kuno Whitmer has come in to make their pit stop.
Yeah, since the first pit stop for the SRT Viper team, Kuno Whitmer, after a fantastic stint, brought the car in from the lead. They've already completed that driver change, so Jonathan Bomarino now getting his belts done. No other work can be done on the car other than that driver change while the fueling is being complete. I did talk to Jonathan before the race, and he said it's amazing the paces that this team has gone through over the last 12 months. They come to a racetrack now, and they know their car so well that they're able to unload from the truck with a good setup. They've been strong all week long, and it's been strong so far this week. And I tell you what, that pit stop was very quick for SRT Viper.
And we wondered earlier in the race how the tyres would last on the Viper through the stint. Well, it lasted extremely well because Kuno Whitmer there did a brilliant first stint in that car number 93 before handing it over to Jonathan Bomarito. There is the number 4 Corvette serving his penalty. And again, all going wrong from the number 4 guys.
Oliver Gavin, no doubt, sitting there steaming away. And we have a change in the lead. We have the car now being driven by Lucas Luhr. Klaus Graf is out of the car. Guy Smith in the car. Oh, that's right, because Guy Smith, or the Dyson car, came in, made its pit stop. So this is the current position on the track.
I think Luhr did come out. I'm not sure that Guy Smith did come out in the lead, actually, because they're very, very close. They came across the start-finish line, but it is now Lucas Luhr who leads from Guy Smith, but not very much. You can see that left rear bodywork on the number 16 Lola Mazda just flapping a little bit in the breeze, which won't be ideal as they go into the Oak Tree corner. But Guy Smith now is going to try and get a run here onto the back straightaway. We've seen in the past that Lola Mazda has been a little bit quicker in a straight line than the HPD of the Muscle Milk Pickett Racing team. Let's see what happens here.
You see him hanging on as close as he can. Can he move off to the left? Yes. He's drafting up. Is he side by side? Yes. Is he going to have enough to be able to take it through this turn? It looks like he's moved over and has the position, and yes, he's going to take the lead away from Lucas Luhr.
Excellent move there by Guy Smith. He got a good exit to Oak Tree corner, got a good run on the straightaway, used the slight straight line speed advantage of the little Lola Mazda, the little 2-litre turbo engine from AER in the UK, owned by Dyson, by the Dyson family. Great move there by Guy Smith to retake the lead of this race.
And we talked about the fact at the beginning of the program that Guy Smith, this is likely his last American Le Mans race, unless there's something that happens, and his last run out here in this car. So as a result, now he's coming through this first turn. He's got this traffic ahead of him. He's got to make sure that they don't do anything, they don't bump into him. He gets around him cleanly through the outside and now starts to work his way up through the S's. But again, it's emotional for him. This is potentially his last, likely his last American Le Mans Series race, and he would like to do as well as possible.
Certainly has done so far. It's a great pass there by Guy Smith. You can see he's using every inch of the racetrack and a little bit more there, going through the first part of the S is now up toward the hill.
And we see the little bit of body work on the left rear flapping as we come up through the S's, come work our way up through Oak Tree. There's the Lucas Luhr Muscle Milk car. Let's take a look at the pass from the outside. We saw it from the inside. He simply went up his side, slipstream for a moment, and then had the top speed to work past.
Yeah, see, top end there, there's not much to choose between them, but I think sort of between sort of third and fourth gear there, the Lola Mazda just had a little bit of an advantage, and Guy Smith uses that advantage to full effect. They're pretty much matching each other on the top speed at the end of the straight, but it's the Lola Mazda as the inside line, the preferred line under braking for turn 14.
And Lucas Luhr not catching him up. I mean, there's nothing in between them. I mean, they had a little bit of traffic they had to get by, but it does not appear that Lucas Luhr is right away closing up that gap.
No, 2 laps ago, Guy Smith said his best lap of the race was a 1:37.989. That was 2 laps ago. The fastest lap of the race so far by Klaus Graf before he handed over to Lucas Luhr, a 1:37.8. So 1/10 of a second between those two leaders in terms of fastest lap so far.
Now, out on the track in the GT division, we're on board the current leader. It's Antonio Garcia in the Corvette. Remember, this car came in a little bit earlier, coming up on one of the GTC cars. The Corvette is leading in this class right now, just slightly over the number 91 car of the Viper being driven by Mark Goossens.
And the reason for that is these guys all made a pit stop during that first caution period, about 15-20 minutes into the race, so they can go a little bit farther before they need to come onto pit lane for fuel themselves.
And now we finally can see the number 55 car has gotten back out on the track. But there's the problem when he got out and went to go do the poor Bill Oberlin, poor guy, is sitting there looking, going, well, how do I fix this? I can open doors, I can close doors. I'm not here to fix the doors.
Good gracious me. We've seen, I mean, what a dramatic race so far. We've seen a fire in a pit lane. We've seen people off the road. We've seen incidents between cars. And now a door falling off one of the cars in pit lane. I haven't seen that for quite a while, I must admit.
And that's why we talked about championship scenarios going in here. You could think everything you want to do to try to manipulate how the points are going to work, what's going to happen, but there are all those unknowns. Would you have ever predicted? In fact, think about it. The BMW team has had a relatively trouble-free year from a mechanical perspective. They have not had serious problems. Would you ever have expected something as simple as a door hinge to cause the problem? Meanwhile, we've got 01, this car coming into the pits.
And Anthony Lazaro brought the car in from the lead position for this number 01. Scott Sharp already being strapped into the car, where the plan is for him to finish out the rest of this race. But it has not been smooth sailing for this team. They've had electrical problems. They've had mechanical issues. They really needed this race to turn around. And so far, the team seems to be pretty pleased with the progress that they've made. Clean stop so far, Kelly.
Remember, Level 5 Motorsports has 2 cars working to get this championship. We see the 552 making its pit stop. Stefan Johansson is out, but they've got 2 drivers left to go. Guy Cosmo is up next. He's just getting belted in as this team goes to work getting him some fresh Michelin tires. Once Guy Cosmo is done, he's going to hand off driving duties to Marino Franchitti, Jamie.
And the number 56 BMW also on pit road. Joey Hand's already got out of the car. Dirk Mueller is in the car. He's really excited about this particular stand. He says VIR is one of his favorite tracks to race on in the world. Plus, he's still in the hunt for that driver's championship. So he said, watch out, because we don't have anything to lose. I'm going out there and trying to get the win.
Indeed, he is back out on the track, and he is running for it. We saw the 01 car came out ahead of everybody else. Meanwhile, 02 is getting pulled back through the paddock area. I'm going to guess his day is done.
Yeah, that's a great shame for the 02 car, because Johannes van Overbeek has been fast. Ed Brown did a pretty reasonable first stint there. He kept the car in contention. And let's have a good again.
Remember, this was during the pit stop. You see the flames coming up over the side. The guy who was helping to belt the driver in. They use all the fire extinguishers. The driver sits there not sure what to do at that point in time. The big difficulty for the team here is what they were ultimately hoping is that this would be a car that would be in between the 01 car and the Level 5 cars.
That's exactly right, to get some more...
Meanwhile, we've got the number 3 car of Antonio Garcia coming in.
Antonio Garcia brings his 3 Corvette to a stop. You see that driver change happening right now. Jan Magnussen getting behind the wheel. These guys told me the 2 Corvettes qualified 8th and 9th. That's where they think they are. But they said, you know, at COTA, we think we had a 7th place team. We ended up getting the win. We can make up time in the pits. They did it under that first caution when they pitted. The 3 and 4 both made up spots. So they're looking for another smooth one here as they get those 4 fresh Michelin tires on. This is where the 3 car is going to have to make up his time and maintain that championship lead. Jan Magnussen on his way.
I was talking with Antonio Garcia this morning. I said, because they were talking about the fact that they just don't have the car to win here just from a power perspective. I said, is there any place on the track where you have an advantage? And he said, yes, the pits. We are simply faster in the pits.
Yeah, and certainly looked like a good stop there for the number 3 car. Of course, that's right on strategy for them, because they had made that pit stop earlier in the race, so they were able to run a little bit farther than those group of cars we saw in about 10 minutes ago. And there is the number 3 Viper ahead of the number 3 Corvette.
Meanwhile, in PC, it's been relatively uneventful for this car, now being driven by Kyle Marcelli, the number 8 car. The 2nd place car is the team car, the number 7 car.
Yeah, indeed. It's a great day for Bar One Motorsports. Brian Alder, the team owner here, they've had a good season, but not a lot of luck. But they did win last time out. They're up to 3rd place in the championship points, in the team points. They're only 19 points behind PR1 Matheson Motorsports. That's the car, number 52 car, had problems in the early stages of this race. That car now, the 52 car, is back in the fray. And the good news, if there is any for PR1 Matheson Motorsports, is we had a couple of withdrawals from the PC class earlier this week. We expected to see the Starworks car number 5 and the number 9 RSR. They did not start.
Meanwhile, the car that had taken the lead in GT is in the pits.
And Mark Goossens hit his marks perfectly. This will be a fuel and tire stop only, so it'll be pretty quick. Goossens did not start this race, so they've already done their driver change that is mandatory during the course of the race. This team's been doing a lot of simulations. They didn't race here last year at VIR, so they've done a lot of work to prepare for this race. But the team has been so pleased with the way that they're able to roll off of the truck and have a strong setup. They've been quickest in several of the practice sessions. It's been a really strong weekend. There was a really strong pit stop as well.
It's been a very impressive run by this team in coming up to speed, getting a victory, and potentially looking for another one.
Absolutely, and I think a great call by the team in the early stages of this race to split their strategies. One car came in during that first pit stop. We saw that car pit a little while ago. That was Quino Whitmer. This car did pit earlier on. Now it makes its second pit stop of the day. After everything that's worked out, now we'll see briefly at least Wolf Hetzler, number 17 Porsche, the Falcon Tire Porsche. Here it is, had the problems on the first lap. It is leading on the road right now, but I'm pretty sure needs another pit stop fairly shortly.
Yeah, very impressive to think that he went off. And if it's got to happen to you, you want it to happen at the beginning of the race, so you've got all that time to catch up. They also got really good fortune in that first yellow flag to get the pass around. As a result, while they were at the back of the pack, they were not practically a full lap down. They got the pass around, were able to catch up to the pack, and then weren't nearly as far back as they potentially could have been.
Phew. I tell you, I was talking to before
just take a breath here, Jeremy. Yeah, exactly. Just take a breath.
Before that latest bout of action out there, I was talking about the 52 car. And the fact they were slightly fortunate. Two cars pulled out of the race before, just earlier this week. Number 9 car RSR is not here this weekend. They're expected to be here. Also, number 5 Starworks entry did not appear. It was on the entry list. So that means there's only 6 cars in PC this weekend. So that means as long as Michael Gouache and Dane Cameron can complete 70% of the distance, the worst that can happen is they will score 6
Still have the lead, points, but not as much as they want.
Correct.
Meanwhile, let's go back up front with the battle. There you see the car being driven by Guy Smith, the other car being driven by Lucas Luhr. Lucas Luhr seems to have slightly closed up that gap. I love that body panel. You see it at the very back there, just slightly flapping out, having lost that little panel at the rear. Doesn't seem to have affected Guy Smith. I mean, he's jumped in the car and immediately gone fast, although we can't compare his times to what Johnny Mullen were doing. He's a different driver. He knows the car much better, but you see just the gap that's back between it. Lucas Luhr has closed it up, but he has not been able to make a move to take the lead of this race.
I think these two cars are pretty closely matched, and these drivers are pretty closely matched as well. And Guy Smith, of course, he's on a mission of his own. He wants to win what will be his final start in the American Le Mans series. He's not scheduled to drive at Petit Le Mans. He's got commitments in Europe. Tested commitments, I believe, during that race weekend in any case. But for Lucas Luhr, who's chasing now in that second place car number 6, he wants to win. Well, everybody wants to win, but he wants to win because he wants to win the final 2 races of the season and take his win tally to 50.
Right, the goal here is to be able to get all 50. I mean, they're looking for consecutive records and realizing they're just adding to their own records, but you want to have those records, the final records for the American Le Mans Series. You want to have those numbers that are just unassailable, that look so impressive that you were able to accomplish. And while it won't hurt them to lose this race, they've made it very clear they want to win. They're here to win. And the traffic in front of them could cause a problem for Guy Smith.
And again, here's a great example of the patience you need here, because there's uphill S's here. It's really difficult to find a way through. And hats off there to Jan Halen, who's driving that JDX, the gold Porsche. He left him a little bit of room there to sneak through. He jeopardized his own pace through that S's in order to make sure the leaders can get through cleanly and not be any contact.
Now they're going around the Ferrari being driven by Townsend Bell. He just kind of takes a steady. Important to point out, the most important thing a car that's being passed can do is take a steady line. Just don't move to the right, don't move to the left. Pick a line, stick with it so the other cars going around you know what you're doing and know what to expect.
Yeah, and in that instance, I think that's exactly what Jan Halen did. And as soon as he realized there were 2 cars there, he did move over, clearly off the racing line, and effectively waved those other two guys past. So heads up driving by Jan Halen.
Meanwhile, we've got the core Porsche that has come in. This is the 06 car. This is the team that is taking the Porsche factory effort next year, a 2-car Porsche factory effort. And there we see Patrick Long, who's gotten in the car.
Yeah, I was talking to Patrick at lunchtime, and they've been struggling with this car this weekend. They can make the car work fairly well, but they can't make it work over the curbs. They're kind of restricted on the shock damper package they can run on this car. and they're not getting it to work. They don't have enough adjustability, effectively, is what it boils down to get the car to really work over the curbs. And you need here at VIR the car to be working on the curbs. As we can see here, the curbs are a big part of this racetrack. You constantly go from left to right. There's only, what is it, there's 17 turns officially on this racetrack, but there's a lot more sweeps and curves on this racetrack, and you're using the curbs an awful lot.
And interesting the way that, for example, the GT cars, the GTC cars will use the curbs to a very large degree. However, the prototypes, in particular the P1s, the P2s, can get into more problems. They're running lower. When they hit the curbs, when they use the curbs, they run the risk of doing bigger problems. Right there, they'll slide all the way off into that curb, but it's not really the curb section. They have modified the curbs between last year and this year. Talking with some of the drivers, they feel it's actually better in terms of the way they go and run over the curbs. It's more of a smoother thing. But having said that, if you're still in one of these prototypes, you do not want to be abusing this car on the curbs.
No, that's exactly right. But it's a super battle between these two completely different configurations. We've got the coupe of the Lola Mazda. Oh, there's number 48 car. That is the third place in GT. Marco Holzer has taken over from Bryce Miller. Another great run by that little team, Paul Miller Racing. They've done a really fine job this weekend, and it looked like they're a big excursion through the grass.
Oh, and there we've got the other Flying Lizard car, the one right now being driven by Seth Nyman, the number 44. And it's unfortunate that he's gone off as well. I was going to talk about that Miller car. Yesterday, they were able to do an engine change. They had an oil leak. They were able to do an engine change on this car right here. The practice ended at 11:25. At 1:45, 2 hours later, they had the new engine in place and fired and ready to go. Now let's take a look at what happened. Oh, it looks like he just kind of locks it up on his own.
Yeah.
He cooks it coming into the turn, and as a result, there's so much runoff here, but you see he's literally plowing through all that grass. My understanding is they actually just cut the grass right before this race, and there's the 44 car, which was right next together with his team car. I don't know if there was any contact or if he did the same thing that the 48 car.
I hope not, because number 44 car is a team boss. No, that's Seth Nyman. He just straight a wheel over there on the left-hand side of the racetrack. Very easy to do. Again, there's this constant sweeps and turns of this racetrack, and you're from one side to the other. I'm sure he was glancing in his mirror to see where the team car was. The number 45 of Spencer Pumpelly. He actually lost a couple of laps after that penalty that was served earlier on by Nelson Canachet. I think that was for speeding in the pit lane, wasn't it? They had a drive-through penalty.
Meanwhile, back up front, we're an hour and 25 minutes into this race, and the distance between these two cars, well, there isn't much. Lucas Luhr can see exactly what his goal is. And I don't think Lucas Luhr is being patient here. I don't think he's being cautious. I think he really wants that. Now, here's a problem we've got. They've got grass that is on fire. Remember I said they cut the grass just recently, and as a result, you have a lot of dried grass off the line. Every time we see it kicking up into those inlets, it looks brown, and now apparently one of the cars, when it went off, apparently the heat has caused a problem there, and I'm curious if we're going to have a yellow flag to put out a grass fire.
That's about the only thing we haven't seen so far this afternoon, isn't it? We've seen a fire in the pits, now we see a fire out on the grass there on the French track. Goodness gracious me. But what a battle this is between these two cars. I was just talking about it before, and yet another incident. The coupe there, the Lola Mazda, the Lola chassis, the coupe version of that car, the 2-liter turbocharged Mazda engine behind it, the open-top Roadster HPD with a normally aspirated engine of 3.4 litres in that HPD LMV8 of that car there. The championship leaders, the championship winners already, Klaus Graf and Lucas Luhr for Muscle Milk Pickett Racing. But this is a great battle between these two super teams.
In some ways, Muscle Milk has been using this as a development year. Knowing that they're likely to move into another series next year, another thing, they've been trying to learn how to get the most out of their team. Meanwhile, let's go back to the GT battle. There you see the Corvette and the BMW going at one another. Now, this is not for the lead. This is further back in the pack. This is the battle for 9th and 10th. And there you see Maxime Martin going by.
Yeah. Well, going by, I think actually, I don't think that's a battle for position, because the number 55 car, I believe,
maybe a lap ahead.
Yeah, it lost a couple of laps, or it lost at least one lap with that pit stop at the door.
That is for position in terms of their that is 9th and that is 10th. But you're right, I think they're actually a lap apart right now.
Yeah. So both those two guys have had difficulties of one sort or another, but The number 55 car is actually back here, so, as you say, in 10th place in that class. And the class leader was the Falcon Tire Porsche car number 17 that has just made a pit stop to hand over to Brian Sellers.
Yeah, Maxime Martin, talking with him. You know, he lives in Monaco, and as you said earlier, like every other driver who comes here, I was talking to him, and he said he likes driving on this track. He also likes the fact that he was able to give them the pole, hoping to get another victory like they had in Long Beach, but that's going to be difficult for them to pull off after that door problem that they had. Meanwhile, their other team car, being driven by Dirk Mueller, is in 5th position. Riding on board with the number 55 car as you come out back around. That is the front straightaway, but even that has a little kink in it. You see it when they go by right there.
Got a couple of kinks on that front straightaway, and that tightening radius at turn 1, a really tricky corner. We've seen so many cars off the road there during the course of this week so far. But that battle's still going on there. Guy Smith and Lucas Lewis separated by just 0.2 of a second last time around.
Meanwhile, all cars are required to go through technical inspection at the beginning of the weekend to make sure they're complying with the rules. Technical Director Charlie Cook explains how it happened.
Our regulations, until they get on the racetrack, are primarily about the physical aspects of the car. So what we're doing is assuring ourselves that the physical aspects of the car are proper.
Give me your brake lights.
First stage is a safety check. That's where we check things like, are the lights working, are the seat belts, harness, are they proper, the fire extinguisher system, is it current, operational. The second station is primarily the measurement and weighing station. We put it on the flat plate, which is our reference surface. We take all the critical measurements, primarily bodywork dimensions. For everybody to supposedly have a fair chance at winning, they need to be within the rules.
And a complicated process here because you have so many different types of cars that are racing. It's not a car or a series where you can put templates on the car because of the way they look. When you've got a car like this one, the Guy Smith car, being driven by Guy Smith right there, one type of car, a Lola being chased right now by the car being driven by Lucas Luhr, very different, makes it challenging for those tech guys. And this is the battle for the lead of the race. Meanwhile, the body flap continues to work on the back of that Guy Smith car, but it doesn't seem to be hurting him.
It doesn't, and right ahead of these two, you can see that bright red Ferrari, the number 62 car, now driven by Matteo Malucelli, with the Falcon Tires Porsche having come onto pit lane a couple of laps ago. There is the Ferrari, and it is leading the race now in GT by about 12 seconds over Jonathan Bomarito and at number 93 Viper. So a great pit stop, I think, therefore, Risi Competizione, and fast driving from Matteo Malucelli.
Yeah, it's been impressive that they've been able to do the run they have. We talked about the problem that they had in qualifying yesterday, where he just ran off to the side of the road, and as a result damaged the back of the car, caused the oil line to come off, which oiled the track and caused problems for some other drivers. But they were able to manufacture a new piece, so they shouldn't have that problem. And we're going to have a full course caution here at Virginia International Raceway, and that once again is going to change things, and it is because we have a grass fire burning off to the side of the track. As you said, Jeremy, we've had just about every other thing happen, from fires in the pit lane to doors coming off to contact all over the place, and now we have a grass fire that is bringing out a full course caution.
Indeed we do, and don't have much really option on that. I've seen this once before at Sears Point Raceway way back in the 80s. An IMSA race, there was a grass fire up in the hills above the track there, which was pretty scary. That's quite a big one actually, but shouldn't take it long to put this one out.
And apparently this was a result of this incident right here, where the number 44 car just got off into the dirt very slightly, went off into the grass, took a moment to get himself straightened out and back onto the track. The problem is you have pieces underneath the car that are super hot. And when you have dry grass like they've got in that situation right there, as a result, something was able to spark. They got a small fire going, didn't put itself out. It just got bigger and bigger, and now they're in a situation where they have to go ahead and bring the car in. That's the number 44 car now being driven by Dion Van Moltke. I was talking to him this weekend. He was talking about how adventurous it's been in trying to get this car to work and trying to figure out the setup. He said there's times when you're bouncing off the curbs here, you feel like you're riding in a dune buggy, where you're literally going completely in the air with all 4 tires, and he made it very clear that is not what you want to be doing. So you've got to train yourself to work it just right. We've got the fire and rescue crew. Normally they're rescuing. Normally they're concerned about fires in other areas, but in this case, they're using a very small fire extinguisher to make sure that this small grass fire does not become bigger. We definitely don't want to have to worry about that. Now, it's interesting. This is up in what they call the Oak Tree Corner. That's just off to the right. There you see a new stand that's been built for the course marshals right behind it. Off to the left is what used to be the Oak Tree. Now, environmentalists don't usually get too emotional when it comes to racing, but earlier this year, the old oak tree that just used to sit off to the left-hand side here at VIR passed on. It was a sad day for everybody. In fact, every driver that I've talked to, whether they like the look of that tree or not, said it's just not the same, especially for those who raced here.
Loss in motorsport is always tough to handle, and here at Virginia International Raceway, we are all reeling from the news that the famous oak tree fell down. And you know what? This is all that's left.
No, it brings a tear to my eye each time I go through there. You know, it's tough. And I asked Antonio, I said, how are you going through turn 11? He says, I'm still looking for the tree. It's desperate.
You are one of our more observant drivers.
Yeah, but I saw it is still there. It's really gone, is it?
Here, have a piece. Here's some of it.
One of the biggest problems is it's so hot in Virginia, the tree offered a lot of shade, and it was a moment for us to kind of recover and catch our breath. It's gone now. It's even hotter than it ever has been.
It's unfortunate for the tree to not be here, but, you know, it's in a better place now, and so we've got a race to look forward to.
As you can see, drivers here in the pit lane really struggling with the epic loss of the iconic landmark.
And the scary thing is all those drivers really do believe all those things they just said. We didn't put any words in their mouth. The interesting thing has been talking with drivers about that turn without the oak tree. Some like it. They talk about the fact they can now kind of see through the turn. They have a better perspective as to what's going on ahead of them. Other drivers have said, I've lost my perspective on the turn. They don't have that tree there to kind of give them a location as to where they are in the center of the turn.
It certainly has given much better visibility, because there was a marshal point on the apex effective of that turn 12 as well. And there were often incidents on the exit of that corner. As you're turning in, you couldn't see them before. Well, you can now.
On board with Andy Lally. It was interesting. You see him there. He's obviously, we're under a yellow, but he was able to reach over with his left hand and make a shift. We've got an emergency service problem on the 4. The Corvette has come in just for a very brief stop. We'll hopefully find out what actually was going on down there. But that's not a great thing. Continues with the problems that the car 4 has had today. That Corvette started off so strong this season, and the last few races just have not gone well.
No, certainly haven't, but they had the problem earlier on. They are still on a lead lap in the class. Quite sure what that would have been, because I wouldn't have thought they were needing fuel at this stage in the race.
And yesterday they had a problem with the team. Remember, I mentioned the fact that number 62 car dropped the oil. It was the number 4 car that was the next car on the scene, being driven by Tommy Milner. He slid off, rammed into the tires, mostly bodywork damage, although they did a control arm that they had to work on very slightly. But the bottom line was they had more work that they had to do. So it just kind of goes into the difficult times that number 4 car was having, and they weren't able to get the maximum qualifying that they might have been able to get out of that car. On board with Patrick Long in the Core Racing Porsche, kind of adjusting his vents. This is that great time when you got a yellow. Might as well go ahead and take a look around the car, figure out what you need to do, what you need to make work. Especially, you know, when you're at speed, you don't, if something is not quite right, you don't have the ability to make that change. Whether it's to adjust a belt, whether it's to adjust something on the dash that is a problem. But during these yellow flag situations, you've got the ability and do it now, because you're not going to be able to fix it again once you go green.
That's exactly right. Here is the race leader, or the second place car, Lucas Luer, also coming onto pit lane. The pit lane, apparently it's open now for prototype cars. The PC leader, Kyle Marcelli, car number 8 for Bar 1 Motorsports, also onto pit lane.
There you see it right there. We've got 1 minute and 8 seconds left in this race. This very likely could be, and we've got both of those cars, the 7 and the 8 car, that have both come into pit lane. There you see the fuel's going in. They're waiting to do the servicing. And now they're servicing those cars on the first car. They're about to go to work on the back ones. Remember, these were the 2 cars being driven by Kyle Marcelli and Rusty Mitchell, the 8 car and the 7 car, leading this race. Now let's go down to the number 6 pit.
Looked like a clean pit stop, although a slight delay there just at the end for Lucas Lord. He got a drink bottle, some fresh Michelins, and he's back out. Probably a bit more, a handful with the 16 car than they expected. Just behind them, we also see the 551, and Ryan Briscoe will stay behind the wheel there as he tries once again to get Scott Tucker some championship points.
Well, that's interesting. Meanwhile, the 05 car, I understand, got by the number 7 car out on the track. But I'm going to guess that the 05 car is probably going to have one more pit stop that they're going to have to make before the end of this race.
Yeah, we've got an hour and 7 minutes to go now. These prototype cars, they can do about 50 minutes of green flag running here. This caution period is certainly going on for another at least 5 minutes, but I still think it's going to be a stretch to get to the end of the race. Here are the points coming into this weekend. Because Colin Brown is not racing in PC this weekend. He's racing the GT car for Core Autosport. But this battle is now an awful lot closer when we get into the final race of the season. Michael Gouache is shown as 5th place because he's moved up as a result of number 81 car of Mirko Schultes and Renger van der Zende. They have had a problem as well, so the 52 cars moved up to 5th place in the class.
Yeah, the 52 car had the problem together with the number 18 car, which was tied with John Bennett. As a result, you've got both of the 2 cars having a problem with the points. Obviously, that's going to have to shake out probably at the next race. We'll take a quick break from Virginia and come back in just a moment.
Everything we ever thought up. Everything we fight for. Everything we dream of. Everything we are. The 911. Porsche identity.
Rated E for everyone. We dream of speed, of pushing to the limit and beyond. We dream of racing the ghosts of history, of perfect passes and podium finishes. We dream to compete. We dream to win.
Xbox 360, starting at $99.
Here's another great thing about our Dueler tires, a comfortable, quiet ride. Whose idea was this? Corporate.
At Bridgestone, our passion for performance knows no bounds.
Power is hypnotic. We're mesmerized by it, spellbound by it. In its raw form, it is just unharnessed energy, but in the hands of those who understand it, revere it, and know how to bridle it, it can become one of the strongest gravitational forces in the whole universe. So why are we drawn to power? Because we can't stop it.
Rated E for everyone. We dream of speed, of pushing to the limit and beyond. We dream of racing the ghosts of history, of perfect passes and podium finishes. We dream to compete. We dream to win.
Xbox 360, starting at $99.
There's so much to love about Bridgestone's Dueler tires. The amazing traction, the quiet, comfortable ride, and they're really tough. It's like loving 3 tires in one.
Still under yellow here at Virginia International Raceway. The field packed up behind the Porsche Panamera safety car as we continue to work our way around. You've got a number of different circuits that you can run here at this particular track. I think they've got a total of 6 different configurations that you can run. You can actually run 2 of them simultaneously. You can run short tracks, long tracks. This is the main one, which is considered basically the longest version, which is 3.27 miles around.
Yeah, you can actually run one track inside the other one. In fact, there's a whole bunch of different configurations where you can run 2 different tracks at one time. It's an amazing place.
Yeah, there we see the aerial view of the cars as they kind of casually cruise around behind that Porsche safety car that is up front. Porsche Panamera that you see right there. And Guy Smith continues to lead here at Virginia International Raceway.
And the reason he's leading is, well, he was leading in any case, but he did not make a pit stop. Interesting strategic call for Dyson Racing.
All right, there we see the back in the pack, the number 7 car. We're going to take a moment here and check in on what happened in the pit stops while we were away.
Well, we saw the 62 Ricci Ferrari that was leading the GT class come in, and behind them was the 17 Team Falcon Tire Porsche. Falcon Tire had a quick full-service stop, came out ahead of the 62 Ricci Ferrari, and with tough season for both of these teams, what a win would mean for either of them today.
Well, and at the other end of pit lane, it was really busy down here with GT cars. We saw both of the BMWs make a fuel and tire pit stop, as well as both of the Vipers, number 91 and number 93. It was clean stops for both, but the one car in the middle of them that has not stopped is that number 16 from Dyson Racing.
Yeah, and interesting that the Dyson Racing car did not come into pit lane on this caution, and the 6 car did. That's good. They're both going to have to make one more pit stop before the end of the race. The Dyson Racing guys, they knew they couldn't get to the end of the race from here, so they will need a full service to get to the end of the race. They will need full service, fuel, and probably tires as well. The number 6 car, however, will really only need a bit of a splash of fuel to get to the end of the race. So if the number 6 car can work its way through the traffic, as it's already doing, it's not going to lose much ground here. And I think the number 6 car is going to be in the catbird seat.
Oh, we've got contact there. That was between 2 of the Porsches. It looks like that's the number 48 Porsche. Wow. That's a GT car together with the car. Oh, the huge crash with Enrique Cisneros and Eduardo Cisneros in the number 31 car. Number 31 car right now being driven by Eduardo Cisneros, goes into the tires, flips up over onto the top, fortunately lands bottom down, but that was a massive shunt when those 2 cars came together. Once again, the number 48 car, which was a GT car, then the other car, the number 31 car, which is a GTC car. In the number 48 car was Marco Holzer. In the number 31 car was Eduardo Cisneros. And you see the damage to that number 48 car, the right rear tire hanging off to the side. And now we're going to see where it's actually gone up over the barrier and landed on the tires. And I see the door open. We see in the pits the concern of the family members that are along pit lane.
That was a very frightening accident. You could see the marshal's point there.
And there we see the driver, Enrique Cisneros, or Eduardo Cisneros, getting out of the car. That is a great sight to see. What an incredible shunt as the 2 came together. He hit the wall, flipped up over, and actually did a complete flip. And now you can see him pointing over to the other Porsche, the one being driven by Marco Holt. So thank you for the thumbs up. We appreciate that. And he's looking over at him going, what? What was going on there?
Yeah, and that car, the number 31 car, was leading the class after a great first stint by Kuba Gimerziak. There's Enrique Cisneros, who's Eduardo's younger brother. And you can see the emotion down there in the pit lane. You know, great to see that the double thumbs up there, because that was a very frightening accident indeed. You can see the car has ended up on top of the tire barrier. Just remarkable.
That's a hugely scary moment, because you saw the contact. You knew they were going in very hard, but and then you saw the car manage to land completely flip, but with the roof slightly caved in. Let's take a look at exactly what happened.
You see the 2
on the
cars
right side of the screen.
Side
they come together and they have so much momentum, they literally just go straight off. And there you see him kind of hit that little section. He gets a dip and he's bouncing along the wall. He doesn't just hit the wall and flip onto it. He is bouncing along that tire barrier.
Wow, and that's right over the top of the marshal's post as well. That was absolutely terrifying.
And that's one of our camera guys. Rich White, you see him at the camera where it says TV crew. We understand he's okay. That's a great sign. See him standing with his camera, never flinching. Rich White does an incredible job of following that. But in the meantime, there you see him moving off to the side. Everybody concerned. The tire marshal's there as well. This was the angle from Rich's camera as he sees the car literally coming at him and colliding with the tires directly in front of him. Meanwhile, you had that course marshal, that little area right there, and they were getting out of the way. And it's important to point out, this car does land straight up, and this is the onboard of Cisneros' car. and obviously we lose it just as he starts to go through. It appears that when he goes off course, he hits just a little bit of a dip, and that kind of flips the car back over and sends him into the, you see just that little bit of a building there where the course markers will stay, and then you've got the camera over in the hinge. Rich White, it is amazing. He not only stays with his camera, he stays with the action. Watch as he turns and follows the car as it's going along, unaware, of course, that the Cisneros car is coming his way. He leaves the camera and dives off to the side, and he's pointing to these guys off to the side saying, "You okay? You okay? If you're okay, I'm heading back to the camera." And then he's going to go back over here and make sure that the drivers are okay. Of course, after he gets his cat.
Well, yeah, he has to listen to his producer down there to make sure. Goodness gracious me.
That is amazing. Rich, I got to give you credit to be able to not just have the wherewithal to stick with it, but to stay through all that. And more importantly, we have to be so thankful that Cisneros is okay despite the tremendous impact where he flips over onto that tire barrier, gets out of the car, and he's okay. And it is a true testament to these cars. I mean, when you think about it, this GTC car is a production-based car. Yes, it has a roll cage. Yes, it has strengthening, but this is a production-based car.
Yeah, and it literally does come off the off the road car production line in Stuttgart, but you can see the damage to it, and it's going to take a long time to get this this car off those tires because it's precariously balanced there. It's going to be a lengthy caution period. I don't know how they're going to get it off there in actual fact, but you can see the damage. Look at that, the windscreen completely caved in.
Well, and meanwhile, we want to hear from Cisneros. Let's go down to Jamie Howe.
Well, it's Eduardo's brother, Enrique, that was watching on, as well as the rest of your family down here on pit lane. We know Eduardo got out of the car on his own, so, you know, big sigh of relief all the way around. But when you watch something like that, as a brother, as a driver, what goes through your mind?
Everything. Everything goes through your mind. I mean, I basically just want to give all the Porsche engineers one big fat kiss and a hug. It's a testament to the strength of the car that he rolled it that way on the roof, and he got out by himself, uninjured. It's really incredible. You know, the emotions going through all of our heads were very strong. You know, I ended up falling to the floor, just of, you know, crying of happiness when I saw him get out. It was a very, very bad accident. We're just really, really glad that he's okay, and you know, it's racing. It happens. So.
It was his first race in the American Le Mans Series. You, however, though, you've been in it for the entire championship. How does a team like this rally through after seeing one car go out? How does the team get through to the checkered flag?
Well, I mean, we got to keep pushing. You know, first of all, we're glad he's okay, and now that he's okay, we can concentrate on what we have to do, which is hopefully win the championship. So we have the Alex Job 22 in front of us, and we're going to keep pushing to the end to see if we can get in front and hopefully go for the win.
All right, big sigh of relief down here at NGT.
Yeah, that was a very difficult moment for everybody involved. It's one thing to have crew members, but to be the brother of the driver who's out there and the other family members who are there. There's a lot of family here. And to see the level of damage to that car, and it was great that he was able to get out of the car so quickly, that he was able to give the thumbs up, and he's got to go to the infield care center. We got to make sure he really is okay. I mean, there sometimes can be secondary injuries, so we do want to truly make sure that he is as okay as he seems to be. But as his brother said, that is a true testament to that car in terms of how it's built and how well it was able to survive that impact.
On board here with Jan Magnussen and the Cisneros, the elder brother there, Eduardo. He's done a lot of racing. This is, as Jamie said, his first race in the American Le Mans Series, because he's been driving in the IMSA GT3 Cup by Yokohama in the last 3 or 4 years. Had a couple of wins there in the gold class a couple of years ago, and he's done most of the races this year, but not all of them. I was looking forward to doing the final 2 rounds of the American Le Mans Series this season. And of course, his brother is still in contention for the championship.
Meanwhile, we've got an update on that number 48 car, the one that was being driven by Bryce Miller.
Well, there was a lot of emotion down here at the Paul Miller Racing Porsche pit after they realized both drivers looked to be getting out of the cars under their own power, and that wasn't the main concern. And then you could just see the look of devastation by this crew that worked so hard to completely rebuild the Porsche after it was destroyed in Baltimore, essentially doing 3 weeks worth of work in a single week to get it prepared for Circuit of the Americas. And now it's got significant damage again. I just had a quick word with Bryce Miller, who's obviously very disappointed. He said this is just a huge setback for us as they head into the season finale at Petit. To get this car back ready to compete for 10 hours is going to be a tough task.
And that was Marco Holzer up on the team stand there, and it's Marco that was driving the car when this accident occurred, so he did quick work to get himself back to the pit lane. But yeah, that was a very frightening accident. Two cars there going side by side into the S's portion of the track, and the number 48 car was on the inside, very much off the racing line, and he tried to give himself a little bit of room, and from the outside there, you know, Eduardo Cisneros was just getting ready to turn into the corner, so it's kind of a, you know, kind of just a racing accident. But you know, if number 48 car, he's a faster car here. This is a GT car racing with a GTC car. The GT car much faster through the corners, and you know, at that point of the, when he's committed himself to that line, he kind of needs to stick to it, and he either backs out of it or he goes and he makes sure he runs over the curbs on the inside there to avoid the contact between those two.
Marco Holzer walks away. You know, we've now that we know that the drivers are apparently in relatively good condition with no major issues, we can talk about the financial issues, which is the fact that, as Kelly just pointed out a moment ago, the damage.
I didn't see exactly what happened.
Trying to listen to Cisneros there. But once again, very, very expensive damage to both this team and the other team. Kelly?
Well, I see Marco Holzer actually holding your left shoulder. So first of all, how are you?
No, I'm feeling okay. Just came out of the car. I don't know what happened. I have to check on the video, but I'm lucky that Porsche built such safe cars. Even for the other driver, we have to check what was before, but all drivers are okay, and that's the best thing.
Best news we could get. Thank you, Marco.
Yeah, it's kind of in the heat of the moment, you kind of you don't really remember what happened there to cause the incident, probably for Marco Holzer, but he'll want to have a look at that replay and pull it through his mind. But yeah, it's one of the sort of hazards on this racetrack, because we've talked about it from the beginning of the show. It's a sinuous racetrack. There's lots of twists and turns, and you have to be, there's kind of one groove around here, if you like, much more so than many other racetracks. And we talked about it earlier. You've got to be patient here. You've got to make your moves, and they've got to be well-judged moves at the right time. If you make the move at the wrong time, then this is the sort of incident that can occur.
Yeah, there was a lot of movement, especially in that part of the track. From the time you make that, you go past the front straightaway and you work your way up through Oak Tree, you are constantly moving to the right, to the left, going through S's, working it the entire time. Even when you come back down from Oak Tree, what we call the back straightaway, which you see right there, there are still some elevation changes. It is not truly a completely straight section. You can straighten it out, but there is still a slight bit of movement in there.
And the pits are open now with 50 minutes to go in this race, and we will see Guy Smith now bring the number 16 Dyson Racing car onto the pit lane. I fancy with this caution the number 6 car of Lucas Luhr, because it's such a lengthy caution period, he might be able to get to the end of the race. Alternatively, the crew might just bring him in just for a quick splash of fuel to make sure he can get to the end of the race. But in any case, the stop for Guy Smith in the number 16 car will be significantly longer. The good news for Dyson Racing is the pits will be open for GT cars next time around, and if some of those guys need to pit, that will enable Guy Smith to move forward somewhat in the pack before the restart.
And there we see Guy Smith going into pit lane. We also see the car being driven by Guy Cosmo, which is currently the leader in P2, that 552 car, also coming onto pit lane.
And this is perfect timing for Level 5 Motorsports, because now Guy Cosmo, well, he will hand over the car to Marino Franchitti, who will drive it to the end. Marino Franchitti, however, will only drive for about 49 minutes, which is not enough. You need an hour to get to the end of the race.
To score points, and the point being that the driver has to score the full points. Jamie?
Well, remember, during that last full course caution, Dyson did not take the opportunity to pit. They were not anticipating a full course yellow, and it's about to get pretty tight down here on pit lane. They are taking this opportunity now, fuel and tires, but it's going to get tight as that pits are open for all classes. So the number 55 BMW right in front of them are also in as well. Yep, so number 55 55 overshot their pit by just a little bit. So clean stop, though, for Dyson Racing. This should be their final stop.
Yeah, the fact that they overshot their pit actually helps Dyson just a little bit. You see they push the car back. Takes them a while to get out of the pit.
Yeah, and that's more bad news in that for the Dyson. It only cost them a couple of seconds, which is not relevant because nobody else got out between them. They had to pull that car back to give him room to pull out around the BMW.
It's a full course yellow. It's not as much of a crisis if it were under green.
Indeed, and the fact that this full course caution happened within 15 minutes of the last full course caution means that when the pits are open, they're open for everybody, because just a few minutes ago everybody had the opportunity to make their pit stops, the prototypes first of all, and then the GT cars. So because it's such a short run here under green, literally seconds, then anybody now who needs to make a pit stop can do so. But this is going to be bad news for Dyson Racing, because Guy Smith now is going to be at the back of the pack, and I think Lucas Luhr is going to have enough fuel to get to the end of the race.
And if you're just joining us, we're under a full course caution as a result of that number 31 car coming into contact with the number 48 car, the GT Porsche that was being driven by Marco Holzer. A humongous accident where the number 31 car literally flipped along the fence, fortunately coming to rest okay. That's the number 23 car that was being driven by Townsend Bell. I believe Bill Sweeler has now gotten back into that car.
Yeah, that car had a long pit stop very early in the race, lost a lot of ground, but they are at least running with the number 23 Team West AJR entry. The Yokohama tires on that Ferrari. And incidentally, there's a big battle for, there's tire manufacturer championships in several classes, including GT, and Falcon and Yokohama were separated with just 2 points coming into this weekend.
Goes out, has to go catch back up to the front of the pack. So for right now, we have Lucas Luhr leading this race ahead of Guy Smith, Ryan Briscoe in the 551 P2 car, leading in that division. We're going to take a quick break here at Virginia International Raceway. As the fans wave at us, we'll be back in just a moment.
Now relax. Let the qi flow from the inner Zhang Fu organs outwards as the needles open your meridians.
Oh, it feels so good. I really thought the needles would hurt.
So did I. I hate needles.
That must make it hard to do what you do.
Oh, not really. I deliver paninis. Easy acupuncturist. But I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Oh.
Stay smart. Stay at a Holiday Inn Express.
Rated E for everyone. We dream of speed, of pushing to the limit and beyond. We dream of racing the ghosts of history, of perfect passes and podium finishes. We dream to compete. We dream to win.
Xbox 360, starting at $99.
You did it. You solved Corman's enigma. How did you do it, Professor?
Professor? No, I'm not a professor. I'm just here to see my daughter. She's a dance major. But I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Stay smart. Stay at a Holiday Inn Express.
Power is hypnotic. We're mesmerized by it, spellbound by it. In its raw form, it is just unharnessed energy, but in the hands of those who understand it, revere it, and know how to bridle it, it can become one of the strongest gravitational forces in the whole universe. So why are we drawn to power? Because we can't stop it.
You did it. You solved Corman's enigma. How did you do it, Professor?
Professor? No, I'm not a professor. I'm just here to see my daughter. She's a dance major. But I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Stay smart. Stay at a Holiday Inn Express.
Back here at Virginia International Raceway, still under full course caution as the Porsche Pan America brings the field around, and you see the Muscle Milk car being driven by Lucas Luhr, which is leading this race. followed by a PC car, followed by a P2 car. That's a great thing about this series. You have 5 classes out there, 5 very different types of cars, but you also have risk associated with those, Jeremy.
Yeah, as we've seen in numerous instances during this race, we've seen various contacts between various different classes of cars, and the latest one there between the GT number 48 and the GTC number 31, by far the most violent, and certainly good to see those two drive it out and had a word at least with Marco Holzer, and we saw that Eduardo Cisneros was chatting away there with the marshals on that corner post, so good to see he appears to be okay as well. But yeah, you know, it is motor racing is dangerous, we know that, and these sort of incidents can happen to particular drivers.
2 hours and 45 minutes is the race length. We are 2 hours and 1 minute into it, meaning we've got about a little over 43 minutes left in this race. The question is who still has pit stops, who does not, and whether anybody will be able to go the rest of the distance.
And that's the thing. I think the Dyson racing car now probably should be good to go to the end of the race. Whether Lucas Luhr can make it, I don't know. We're going to have, assuming we get back to green within the next lap or two, there will be about 38 minutes or so to go to the end of the race. I'm assuming that number 6 crew, Brandon Fry, is the chief engineer there at Musselburgh Pickup Racing. I'm sure he is determined that the car can get to the end of the race if we go green from here, because otherwise I'm sure he would have brought the car in just for a splash of fuel during this last caution period, in the full knowledge that number 16 car had to make a full service pit stop, a full tank of fuel. So the strategies now are beginning to pay out.
Yeah, and you have the advantage of a very long yellow, which gives you the ability to do a lot of fuel saving, where you might not have been able to go the distance had you been running under steam. Now, under yellow conditions, you're saving fuel, you're not using nearly as much, and as a result, you now may be able to go the distance.
In P2, we saw the number 552 car come in during this previous caution period, and that was when Guy Cosmo handed it over to Marino Franchitti. Will now go to the end of the race, but he won't score that full hour of driving. So
taking
again
another look at the incident that started all this, when the 48 car came together with the 31 car, and you could just barely see it off to the right, and then suddenly it appears again, and it is bouncing over that tire wall. Fortunately, everybody, as far as we know, okay, no serious injuries, no actual major injuries. There they came together. I'm not totally sure why they did, other than the fact they were in the same place at the same time. You've got the corner workers getting out of the way. Our cameraman, who was right there, managed to pan with the camera and then get out of the way at the same time. Significant here, though, is Cisneros, who is in that car, and look how damaged it is, and the roof is caved in. Ultimately is okay. There you see, he just comes into contact with it.
Well, he does. I mean, Marco Holzer there, he's clearly on the wrong line on the approach to that corner. He tries to give himself room, and he makes contact with the other car.
Yeah, once again, that was Eduardo Cisneros. His brother, meanwhile, is so happy that everything's okay.
So, you know, big sigh of relief all the way around. But when you watch something like that, as a brother, as a driver, what goes through your mind?
Everything goes through your mind. I mean, I basically just want to give all the Porsche engineers one big fat kiss and a hug. It's a testament to the strength of the car that he rolled it that way on the roof, and he got out by himself, uninjured. It's really incredible. You know, the emotions going through all of our heads were very strong. You know, I ended up falling to the floor, you know, crying of happiness when I saw him get out. It was a very, very bad accident. We're just really, really glad that he's okay, and you know, it's racing. It happens. So.
It was his first race in the American Le Mans Series. You, however, though, you've been in it for the entire championship. How does a team like this rally through after seeing one car go out? How does the team get through to the checkered flag?
Well, I mean, we gotta keep pushing. You know, first of all, we're glad he's okay, and now that he's okay, we can concentrate on what we have to do, which is hopefully win the championship. So we have the Alex Job 22 in front of us, and we're going to keep pushing to the end to see if we can get in front and hopefully go for the win.
All right, big sigh of relief down here in GT.
Big sigh of relief, I think, everywhere on the track when they saw exactly how he was able to get out of the car and the fact that the car protected him so well. Meanwhile, we're going to go green racing here at Virginia International Raceway as we see Lucas Luhr lead the field down that front straightaway. And And the cars begin to settle themselves out. Right behind them, one of the P2 cars that has moved into the second position on the track. You've got a PC car right behind him as well. And then you've got the 01 car. That is the car being driven by Scott Sharp. So the battle for points that is significant that we're seeing in front of us right now is that the number 2 car on the track, that black car that is the level 5 car, that is the number 1 car in P2 right now. The number 2 car in P2 car is the black and green car being driven by Scott Sharp. Ryan Briscoe in the front car, and meanwhile you've got the car being driven by Scott Sharp that is right behind. Right now we're on board with Guy Smith, who's having to work his way up through that traffic.
Absolutely, he's got a lot of traffic to get through before he gets anywhere near Lucas Luhr in the lead of this race.
Ryan Briscoe, who I talked to him, has never actually raced on this track before, although he said he did actually do a NASCAR test here, but they have a smaller track that he was able to do the NASCAR. So he's never actually done this full track. Let's talk about these points. We talked about him before in terms of what was going on. Marino Franchitti, who is leading in the points, but as we've seen, because of the pit stops, is not likely to score points this race. Guy Cosmo not likely to score points this race as well. That as a result, Scott Tucker trying to score maximum points, and he can do as many points as Ryan Briscoe will allow. Right now, Ryan Briscoe's in the lead, which could be just enough to continue to stretch that lead over Scott Sharp. It was 2 points coming in. If he can continue this pace and stay ahead of Scott Sharp, it could stretch it out to a 6 point.
Absolutely, the number 551 car has been significantly quicker than the 01 pretty much all weekend. And I don't see any reason for that to change this afternoon. So it's certainly looking good for Level 5 Motorsports and for Scott Tucker, because, as you were suggesting there, I believe that neither Marino Franchitti nor Guy Cosmo will score points in this race because they have not completed the 1 hour minimum distance. And that was the reason for bringing Stefan Johansson into this car for this weekend.
And then right behind them in that orange and blue car, orange, blue, and white car, that is the number 8 car being driven by Kyle Marcelli, the PC car that is leading in that division. And here we have the leader in the GT division, Patrick Long in the 06 Core Porsche, being followed by Brian Sellers in the number 17 Falcon Tire Porsche.
We've got this great battle now. I mean, all of a sudden, the way the strategies have played out, I think we saw Patrick Long on pit lane a little bit before the first of those 2 caution periods, so presuming he doesn't need to stop again in that Core Autosport car. We're on board here with number 3 car, and Jan Magnussen, as you can see right ahead of him, is Matteo Maliucelli, and he made that pass on this lap, I think into turn 1. Matteo Maliucelli in that bright red Ferrari just ahead of us has moved up to 3rd place in the class.
Yeah, that is the battle as we see it right on the track.
And just a couple weeks ago, it was announced that in 2014, Core Autosport would be the factory Porsche team with the new United Sports Car Championship. So with those plans set, the focus now for this weekend was on strategy and car setup. And Patrick said that both of those have been pretty strong so far. It's really where the team has put a lot of their effort to get the strategy up to par, so that when they go into next season, they feel like they really have a shot at that Tudor United Sports Car Championship.
Meanwhile, we have the Guy Smith number 16 Dyson car working its way through the GT battle. Slips through pretty easily, but there you have the battle for 1st, 2nd, 3rd. There you see 4th as all these cars go through, and now we've got a P2 car trying to work its way through the field as well.
Yeah, but Guy Smith here really needs another caution. For Dyson Racing, that number 16 car in 2nd place, going through turn 1 right now. He's worked his way through pretty much all of the GT cars now, but he's 25 seconds behind our overall race leader, Lucas Luhr.
Yeah, and then Ryan Briscoe easily has the lead. And we were talking about the individual points championship, but we also have a points championship for the team. If Ryan Briscoe can win this race, the 551 car will win the team championship for level 5. So there's so many different championships running out there. Even if they can't secure the driver's championship, they could secure the team championship.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And as it stands right now, if Scott Tucker finishes ahead of Scott Sharp in this race, he won't have tied up the championship as long as Scott Sharp can finish in 2nd place here, or maybe 3rd. Marino Franchitti will try to make sure that it's 3rd place that Scott Sharp finishes in. But the 552 car running 3 drivers this weekend for strategic purposes, like I say, to assist Scott Tucker in his quest for the championship. But he's now, Marino Franchitti is 15 seconds behind Scott Sharp and we've got just 34 minutes to go in this race.
Riding on board right now with Jan Magnussen on board the Corvette. Their goal was to win the race. We see what looks like a pass trying to happen just up ahead as the Ricci Ferrari goes just to the inside, or is it the outside of the Falcon Tire Porsche, makes the move and moves himself into second place.
Yeah, so Maricelli already passed the Corvette with which we ride on board right now, and then we just drove straight past Brian Sellers there in that Falcon Tires Porsche, and that Ferrari now is in second place. There it goes around the final corner to complete its 60th lap here, and he will be chasing. It is Patrick Long who leads the class in the 06 Core Autosport Porsche, and you can see the gap between the two of them. It's less than 2 seconds.
And the Corvette, once again, the goal was to win this race and secure that manufacturer's championship. It doesn't appear that that is likely to happen. I think he's going to need a couple breaks. He just doesn't seem to be as fast as that Ricci Ferrari that is just ahead of him, although he's working really hard to catch up to the back of the Porsche being driven by Brian Sellers. He's caught up to him. Now he just needs to brake and figure out where he's going to be able to do it. And we come up, go by the chalets there, the hotel off to the not hotel, but the rooms off to the left, work his way back up through that section, get around Oak Tree where you've got the long straightaway, and see if he can make a move up there.
Indeed, and for Jan Magnussen here, running 4th place in the class, you can see him closing here on Brian Sellers, hounding Brian Sellers through the S's. The primary goal now for Jan Magnussen, taking over from Antonio Garcia, finish the race right now. If they can finish the race where they are, the championship will be assured for Chevrolet, and they will have a substantial lead going into the final race of the season. The car that's chasing them, though, Dirk Mueller, is where's Dirk Mueller? He's only 1 place behind the Corvette. So here comes the Corvette up the straightaway. Here we've got a PC car between them. The Dragon Speed car has obviously had maintenance repairs. We got back out into the race after a very lengthy delay. But there it goes down the inside into turn 14. But right behind Jan Magnussen is Dirk Mueller. That's still the championship battle for the drivers in GT.
There you see the leader in the GT division, once again Patrick Long. You've got a PC car going beside him, but right behind him is that number 62 Ferrari, the Ricci Ferrari that has dialed in and managed to first pick off Brian Sellers, and now it's working really hard on Patrick Long. Patrick Long, though, a veteran Porsche driver, knows how to work these cars, knows how to work his way around, but it appears that the gap between 62 and that 06 car seems to be getting slightly smaller every single lap. And there you see he is so close, looking like he's ready to pounce, but he's got a little bit more to go before he's going to be able to make that move.
Yeah, you can see how quickly that Matteo Maricelli has closed up on Patrick Long, and you can see Patrick there sort of clambering over the low curbs through that part of the racetrack, and now here up into the S's where they're even flatter. But here is the battle now. It's really heating up. There goes Tristan Nunez in car number 18. They've made their lengthy repairs. They're running 4th place in the class. They will pick up a couple of points over Michael Gouache, who is 5th place in the class, driving with Dave Cameron. Those two cars involved that incident very early in the race.
Now this is going through the Oak Tree. You come back down onto this back straightaway. This is where it's a drag race. It'll be interesting to see the power difference between the Porsche and the Ferrari, to see if the Ferrari can reel this car in on power, or whether the Porsche simply has enough guts and enough power to pull it off.
I think the Ferrari is getting a lot closer, isn't it, at the end of that straightaway? Not quite close enough this time around for Matteo Maricelli, but this is the battle for the lead in GT. It's well, Porsche against Ferrari. We haven't seen that much, have we, over the last, how many years?
Now, one thing I will say, we have not seen the number of cars getting slightly off track and bringing a lot of the debris onto the track. We've seen it several times, but not nearly to the degree that we had seen it over the last few days, as cars were getting off course, bringing the grass onto the track. Everybody talked about what a slippery surface they've been contending with. And there you see the Ricci Ferrari take a very brief look, takes a look to the inside of Patrick Long and decide, well, I'm not going to do that. Meanwhile, you've got the Corvette going to the outside of Brian Sellers.
Great move there by Jan Magnussen. Nice job. Yeah, it was indeed a nice job. Brake late on the outside line. Brian Sellers, gets in the racing room out there. He realizes Brian Sellers does that, the Corvette is faster, but now it's the BMW of Dirk Mueller. He wants to get past that Volvo Porsche as well.
And you're riding on board with Jonathan Bomarito's got a great view as Dirk Mueller can see the Porsche. He knows that he wants to get ahead. His job is to stay as close as he possibly can in a points position, and if possible, to get ahead of that Corvette to improve very slightly his points position. He would still be behind, but he would at least be able to gain.
Third, fourth, fifth, and sixth places here all together, and seventh, actually seventh and eighth as well, I think, all together in this train of cars here battling in GT. But in the meantime, Patrick Long has just set his best lap of the race so far, but that's the good news. The bad news is it's a second and a half slower than Matteo Malicelli managed much earlier in the race in that number 62 Ferrari. So I think it's really just a matter of time here. The Ferrari clearly is the faster car on this day at VIR, but here now he's going to move to the inside.
There he goes. He makes his move, just looking at the inside. They're side by side. Patrick Long isn't anxious to give up. There you see. He manages to hold him off, just slightly locking up. And now you've got a PC car starting to get into the battle as well. And the question is whether the PC car will upset the balance of the GT race. But Patrick Long did a great job defending, staying there, holding his line, locking up very slightly, but managing to fend off the Ferrari.
Great battle between those two. It was Malicelli down to the inside, but that was the inside of the left-handed kink, which leads into a tighter right-hand corner. That is where Patrick Long was able to maintain his advantage. Here again on the front straightaway, it is Malicelli on the outside of Patrick Long. He's a canny campaigner, and he puts that Porsche exactly where it needs to be to keep the Ferrari behind him. But how long can he do it for?
Yeah, Malicelli trying to go around the outside, hoping he can at least get to a situation where they're going side by side. Patrick Long not letting that happen. Meanwhile, you got the two PC cars in the back thinking, I've got more power, I should be able to get by. But the battle between these two cars, they're not going to give anything up. No one is going to let those PC cars by right now, because they know if they flinch, Malicelli knows that if he flinches, he moves over for even a slight second. Patrick Long is not going to make a mistake. He's going to stretch out that lead. Malicelli knows he's so close, he needs to work on him. Obviously, Long knows he's there. Long has been, on the edge of making mistakes, holding it on as best he can, but at the same time knowing that he is fully under attack.
It's been a very disappointing season for Risi Competizione, Giuseppe Risi, and the Houston-based team, this Ferrari importer. And look at this, Malicelli's got a great run now. I think Patrick Long's going to really struggle to keep Malicelli behind him now. But it's been a really disappointing season. Their best finish so far was a second place at Sebring. But now I think the Ferrari has the advantage. There he goes, just motors right past Patrick Long on the straightaway. And I'm sure he will take a defensive line here into turn 14 to make sure there is no way Patrick Long can find his way back into the lead of the class in GT.
I think Patrick Long did a great job of keeping Malicelli at bay for as long as he did. I think the reality is that Ferrari is just a stronger, faster car than that Porsche at the moment. And as a result, like I say, Patrick Long did a great job, but now he's given up the lead. And Matteo Malicelli moving off into the distance. You can see how quickly he's built up a lead, and those two PC cars finally now getting the opportunity to go by.
Malicelli set the fastest lap of the race in GT. He's done a 1 minute 47.4. The next fastest lap in the class, 1:47.8 by Maxime Martin in car number 55, the BMW with which he claimed the pole position. The only other car into the 47s. Actually, there aren't any. Just those two. Everybody else in the 48s. So a healthy advantage in race trim for the Ferrari, a full half a second quicker than anybody else.
This we're on board with the number 55 BMW trying still to get by that Falcon Porsche being driven by Brian Sellers, and he's making very clear, Maxime Martin in that number 55 BMW, that he wants to get by. And then in talking with the team, they were saying this was the problem they were concerned about, that they just didn't think they had enough oomph to be able to, when they had an opening, to hit the accelerator and blow by. They knew they could do well if they were in front. They knew they could do well if they didn't have to do a lot of passing. They were concerned that if they were in passing positions, that they wouldn't be able to pull it off. But Maxime Martin is definitely doing as much as he possibly can. He's staying close. Now, draft up on the back, see if he can slightly move aside, but he's just not close enough.
No, he isn't, and it's again a fascinating battle here between the Porsche and the BMW, and a good run for Falcon Tires because they've not had much luck or much pace, it has to be said, really, in recent races. Of course, you might remember at Baltimore about a month ago, the team's primary car was absolutely destroyed in that start line incident. And what did the team do? Well, they didn't have the budget to buy a new car or even repair. Well, the car wasn't repairable. So what they did was they took the show car. It was on the showroom floor not too long ago, but they built that into a race car. It's a 2010 chassis. So all the technology, they were allowed to put some of the new aerodynamic parts on the car, the wider track and the wider rear end, the larger rear wing on the car, but it hasn't really been competitive with the Pucker 2013 machinery. But certainly, Wolf Henson did a great job in the early stint after the off on the first lap, and now Brian Sellers maintaining that form here in the race, still running in 4th place in the class, is he?
No, actually.
He's slipped back down now, isn't he?
Yeah, and it looks like if you look up ahead, that Corvette that is just ahead. Oh, we've got the leader of the race. That is Lucas Luhr having to muscle his way in between these two, and hopefully doing it without doing any damage or hurting his opportunity to win this race. This is where you get stuck behind these cars. You're through the S's. It's very tight. You pull alongside. Make sure you do it as cleanly and clearly as possible so that GT car doesn't mistake you for anybody else.
Yeah, that was the interesting thing there with Lucas Luhr. He pulled alongside the other car there going into the S's section of the track, and he didn't move back across again to the right-hand side to claim the preferred line. He knew that the other guy was committed to the corner, and that was the difference between his clean passage there and the incident that took place a little while ago.
And this is the battle right here between Brian Sellers and Maxime Martin. You see how hard they've been working, and this is for 7th and 8th in class. This is not for the lead of the race. This is not even for the lead in their division, and you see how hard they're working to pull this off.
There's hammer and tongs. It always is in GT. It's fabulous racing. Some of the best racing on the planet, literally, in GT here in the American Le Mans Series, presented by Tequila Patron. We've seen a great example of it this afternoon at VIR.
Brian Sellers doing a great job so far. I don't know that he actually has the full power if they were just running equal laps to be able to keep up with the 55 car, but he's definitely been able to use the advantages of that Porsche in certain sections of the track to be able to keep his lead. You go through here, you got the dog leg as you go by the front straightaway. He works his way in, and it just doesn't look like Martin has the ability. There he goes inside, dives to the inside, outbreaks Brian Sellers, and looks like he's got the position, assuming that Brian Sellers can't take it back, and he doesn't. As a result, Maxime Martin simply does an outbreaking maneuver at the end of the front straightaway and takes the position.
Yeah, the pole sitter there, good, clean, incisive move to the inside, absolutely dives to the inside, laid on the brakes, gets absolutely alongside Brian Sellers at the turning point. Brian Sellers has no option but to cede the corner to the number 55 BMW.
Yeah.
Great pass that was by Maxime, and he's already set some very, very quick laps. He was the pole sitter as well for the first time in his ALMS career. Just started at the beginning of this season. Been a bit of a revelation. He wasn't very well known over here at all before the start of this season, but Maxime Martin has been fast, and now he's going to see if he can close in on the leaders, or at least that battle for third on back in GT.
And this, once again, is a look from the outside as to how he got that pass. Basically set him up, outbraked him, was able to get in front. And sometimes when you do that, you slide out at the very end of the break, but in that case, at the end of the turn, but that case he was able to hold on to the position. And there, that car right there, that number 52 car, that is the car that was driven by Mike Wash at the beginning of the race, that had the incident where he came together with the number 18 car. And that number 52 PC car went back behind the wall for an extended period of time and had repairs done and was able to get back out onto the track.
Yeah, great battle. Here, this is a battle, though, for GTC. This is a battle here for second and third. The 22 and a 30, they are two of the three championship contenders coming into this weekend, separated by very few points indeed coming into this round. It was the number 22 car's 115 points. The 105 car, the number 30 car has 10 points behind, so still very much up for grabs between these two. But ahead of them both is Damien Faulkner in that TRG car number 66, looking for that team's second win in 2 weeks.
Yeah, Damien Faulkner did such a great job at the Circuit of the Americas. He did a phenomenal job during qualifying, and now he's managed to just kind of go off and run off and hide in this. And there you see the battle back behind him with Jerome Bleekmolen in the number 22 car and Sean Edwards in the number 30 car.
About 2 seconds behind Damien Faulkner. This is the battle for second and third in GTC. And about 5 seconds behind them is Jan Halen in car number 11 for JDX Racing. And right behind Jan Halen is number 27 car, the Dempsey Racing, number 27, driven by Andy Lally.
Just 19 minutes and 38 seconds left to go in this race. We have already raced more than 2 hours and 25 minutes of a 2 hour and 45-minute race. And earlier we said it, we'd seen all kinds of adventures. And there you see the car. That's the gap between Damian Faulkner. That was that blue car just ahead. There you see him going into the turn, and then the number 22 car that's being driven by Jeroen Bleekmolen. So while Damian Faulkner has a lead, it is not an insurmountable lead.
We've got the Irishman Damian Faulkner, the Dutchman Jeroen Bleekmolen, and the Englishman Sean Edwards here. Three long-time campaigners in the Porsche Super Cup Series in Europe. They've all won races there, and Edwards actually is leading the championship in Europe this year with just one round to go. That'll be at Abu Dhabi with the Formula One Grand Prix next month.
All right, quick update on the Michelin Green X Challenge we talked about a little bit earlier. Remember, the goal is to be clean, fast, and efficient, and as we said, it's like golf. The lower goal, the score is the lower that you want to be able to do well. Corvette Racing leading in that division right now. We'll come back.
Race into the night, October 19th at Road Atlanta's Petit Le Mans, powered by Mazda. See the world's fastest and most exotic 200-mile-per-hour Le Mans sports cars at Road Atlanta. Petit Le Mans, October 19th.
Rated E for everyone.
We dream of speed, of pushing to the limit and beyond. We dream of racing the ghosts of history, of perfect passes and podium finishes. We dream to compete. We dream to win.
Xbox 360, starting at $99.
There's so much to love about Bridgestone's Jeweler tires. The amazing traction, the quiet, comfortable ride, and they're really tough. It's like loving 3 tires in one.
Now relax. Let the qi flow from the inner Zhang Fu organs outwards as the needles open your meridians.
Oh, it feels so good. I really thought the needles would hurt.
So did I. I hate needles.
That must make it hard to do what you do.
Oh, not really. I deliver paninis. He's the acupuncturist. But I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Oh.
Stay smart. Stay at a Holiday Inn Express.
Here's another great thing about our Jeweler tires, a comfortable, quiet ride. Whose idea was this? Corporate.
At Bridgestone, our passion for performance knows no bounds.
You did it. You solved Corman's enigma. How did you do it, Professor?
Professor? No, I'm not a professor. I'm just here to see my daughter. She's a dance major. But I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Stay smart. Stay at a Holiday Inn Express.
Race into the night, October 19th at Road Atlanta's Petit Le Mans, powered by Mazda. See the world's fastest and most exotic 200-mile-per-hour Le Mans sports cars at Road Atlanta. Petit Le Mans, October 19th.
Back here at Virginia International Raceway, the Oak Tree Grand Prix out in Virginia, just a little tiny speck of Virginia. It's interesting, to get to this track, you actually have to cut south into North Carolina and then come back in. That's the way you get to this track, but it's a beautiful road on the way here. And there we're seeing the battle in GTC. The number 66 car, that blue car just went off into the distance, being driven by Damian Faulkner, has the lead. The number 22 car, driven by Jeroen Bleekmolen, that white car. And there's the 30 car, being driven by Sean Edwards, that Momo number 30 car. And there you see the leader of the race. That's Lucas Luhr in the Muscle Milk car, working his way through the traffic. And that's always the thing that the leader of this race has to be so cautious with. You know, when you're out running your own race, you don't want to make a mistake and come up on a car that doesn't realize you're there. I was talking with Cooper McNeil earlier about that today. I said, what's it like to when all these guys are coming up? He said, you know, after a while, you just get used to it. You know who you need to move over for. You know who's going to take a moment. You know who's going to be impatient. And you know who's not going to be impatient.
That's exactly right, and experience is so important in this sport, and particularly on a racetrack like this. There's a good view there of Damian Faulkner leaving room for the number 6 car, the overall race leader, to move through on the inside, going into the first of the 2 corners at Oak Tree Bend. And they're the battle for second and third. The number 22 car of Jerome Bleekemolen with Sean Edwards. Got about half a dozen car lengths or so behind him in that car, number 30.
Yeah, and up front, you've got that Damian Faulkner car. He is not a part of the championship, but he is racing for his career. He does not have a ride for next year. No one has signed him on. As a result, he knows that you're only as good as your last race. The last race he won, he'd like to win this and make his last race in terms of what have you done in your last race. So Damian Faulkner out there knowing he's racing for his career, whereas Jerome Bleekemolen, obviously you're always racing to try and do as well as you can, but I think Damian Faulkner is just a little more precarious situation. He's not running for a championship. He's not helping his team. Oh, and there you see where Sean Edwards just slightly gets off course, hits that, goes slightly back off to the side, and somehow manages to gather it up and go down that front straightaway. That was a scary moment for Sean Edwards. You got right off very slightly, hit that dirt, and bounced back on.
Yeah, the car snapped sideways on him there. He put straight that left side wheels onto the dirt coming out of that final corner onto the front straightaway. Big moment there for Sean Edwards. Cost him at least a half a second or more. And Jerome Bleekemolen, you know, you need to be on your A game. No mistakes at all if you're going to get catch and then get past someone like Jerome Bleekemolen.
Yeah, and by the way, we understand, we saw the muscle milk car that just worked its way through the traffic just a moment ago. We understand from the team that they're good to go the rest of the distance. Let's take another look at Sean Edwards. There, you see, he hits the front of that curb. Wow. He gets off into the dirt, hits the curb, bounces his way up, and fortunately is able to gather it in, but that could have been much, much worse.
Yeah, I tell you what, that was a hard hit there. You can see the car understeering. It's just not turning into the corner. It runs off the exit there. Just can't get the car to turn into the corner and runs wide on the exit. And there's a kind of at the beginning of the curb there is kind of set down under, you know, with a bit of a trough kind of behind it. And he hit that really, really hard. And he's going to be lucky if he doesn't do any damage to that car.
And there we have one of the level 5 cars that is off. Is that Ryan Briscoe? Yeah. Ryan, no, that's the car being driven by Marino Franchitti that goes off very slightly. Now that's the car that's running in 3rd place in that class behind Scott Sharp.
And the gap between Sharp and Marino Franchitti had come down to about 9 seconds. I think it'll go out now, certainly as a result of that incident there for Marino Franchitti, being gradually inching closer and closer. Marino Franchitti had set the fastest lap of the race in P2 on lap 65, so 8 laps ago. He's completed 73 laps now. That was a 141.4 for Marino Franchitti against Scott Sharp's best lap, a 142.2. Ryan Briscoe, he did a 141.8 a little while ago.
And as I mentioned earlier, you know, over the course of the weekend, we have seen an awful lot of cars doing exactly that. Just getting that slide off course excursion. And you see he came out around Oak Tree. A lot of the cars have been using that curb. He used way too much and was actually out into the dirt trying too hard to catch up to the guys ahead. Now let's look at this race we have right here. Dirk Mueller in that white with the blue front on the corner for the BMW. Just ahead of him is the Corvette being driven by Jan Magnussen, the number 3 Corvette. And this is for points, and this is significant. Right behind him, we're on board with Jonathan Bomarito in that Viper car. They've been showing how well they've been doing all year long. They thought they had a better chance and a good chance to do well here this weekend. He just hasn't been able to reel him in and pass him.
No, that's right. It's a great battle going on there between these guys, and it's become the norm in GT this season. But in the meantime, Matteo Maliucelli has checked out in the lead. He's got an advantage now of over 10 seconds over Patrick Long. And as we can kind of see here, it's Patrick Long now who's beginning to come under pressure from, yeah, there is Patrick Long, just went out the left-hand side of the screen. And there is Jan Magnussen. Behind Magnussen is that white and blue BMW, the car number 56, Dirk Mueller aboard. He's currently second in the championship standings for BMW in the drivers' standings. And behind him, the car with which we're on board right now, number 93, Jonathan Bomarito.
Bomarito, I think, has become a very impressive driver. I think his run at the Circuit of the Americas was very impressive at the end of the race. I think slowly but surely he's become, remember a long time ago, back in the days when he was driving Atlantics, I think he's come a long way, become a very, very solid driver. And there you see back behind him, that's the number 4 car being driven by Tommy Milner and Maxime Martin in that black BMW. They've got a problem with the hood, though, on that number 93 car. Did you notice that? It just seems to be bouncing up very slightly. Back on board with Jan Magnussen as he is trying to chase second place. That's Patrick Long in the 06 Core Porsche right ahead of him. They come up on the main straightaway. There you see the pits off to the right. I love the buildings. That's the media building off to the right. Kind of looks like a giant barn. I love the design of all the buildings that they've got here. Coming and working his way in through that first turn. Yeah, rustic qualities here at VIR. It's a signature of the track. It's a very homey kind of a place, isn't it? It really is a wonderful racetrack. And a great facility. Somebody else looked like they were putting some wheels onto the dirt. They're coming through turn 3, but here is this battle. There's what, 4 or 5 car lengths between each of the cars. Not exactly nose to tail like we're kind of used to. But as you can see, Patrick Long here in the Porsche, he is coming under increasing pressure from Jan Magnussen. Behind Jan Magnussen, Dirk Müller, then Jonathan Bomarito, and then what about a second and a half behind him, Tommy Milner and Maxime Martin. And if you're Jan Magnussen, the thing to think about is if you can get second place, let's face it, the Ricci Ferrari has had some issues this year. We have less than 9 minutes to go in this race. Likely that the Ricci Ferrari is going to be able to continue on and win. But if they do have a problem, if he can get into second place and something happens with that Ricci Ferrari, that could be a victory that could clinch the manufacturer's championship for Corvette. Meanwhile, we're back on board Jonathan Bomarito's car, and you see that hood just seems to be bouncing up. It seems to be holding, but when I look at it from the outside and when I look at the way it's bouncing right there, it just barely seems to be under control. It does seem to be flapping a bit more than usual, I think, doesn't it, on that number 93 car on the back straight away. Especially when you see it coming into view here, when we'll watch it right here, you can just see it bouncing. There you see Jan Magnussen just right behind that Patrick Long Porsche. That is second in the Porsche right there. Third in the number 3 yellow Corvette. Fourth in the BMW that is white with the red and blue stripe. And then directly behind them is the Viper, the number 93 Viper, driven by Jonathan Bomarito. And of these cars, the fastest lap of the race by any of them is set by Jonathan Bomarito quite a lot earlier in the race, about halfway through the race in that number 93 Viper. But there's, they've got the Porsche, the Corvette, the BMW, and the Viper. Just separated by, well, as you can see, maybe half a second or so between each car. Interesting story. We talk about that Ricci Ferrari and their issues. When they came in, they didn't race last year. They didn't have the setup from last year. They were actually to get setup information from Extreme Sports and use Extreme Speed to use their setup because they had run the Ferrari last year. They gave them information, and that gave them a heads up coming into this weekend. Very good point. And not only did the Extreme Speed car run that car here last year, they got the pole position. It's the first ever pole position for that team and for Johannes van Overbeek. So yeah, they had great information from that Ferrari 458 Italia, and certainly Ricci Competizione has used that information to excellent effect this weekend. And there's Spencer Papelli that everybody is just blowing by, but Spencer Papelli knows his stuff as we watch everybody go whipping by. Interesting story about Spencer Papelli. You know who his college roommate was? Elliott Sadler. Elliott Sadler, the NASCAR driver, and Spencer Papelli, 2 professional drivers, were together in the same suite at James Madison. What are the odds of that as they go into professional racing? Great battle here once again as we see the GT cars, and now you've got the there's a PC car that's number 27 being driven by Andy Lally, but you got a GT car trying to work its way through. Jan Magnussen saying, "Look out, I'm coming through." Indeed, coming through, and Andy Lally there. He's running in the 6th place in the class, and he's lost a position to Dion von Molke. Just within the last few laps. Dion von Molke in that number 44 car for Flying Lizard Racing, taking over the car from Seth Nyman, who was either ran off at the Oak Tree earlier on in the race and caused that little brush fire up there, little grass fire. But Seth Nyman, boy, he's been a revelation his last few races. Had a magnificent win at Baltimore. He was strong last weekend as well. He's got fastest laps. He's qualifying well. Ooh, look at that, the number 93 car almost coming together with the number 4 Corvette. Tire just dipping off. You see the dust coming up into the space. Another place where they go off. They are working so hard. They're using every inch of the track. If the BMW can stay ahead, they will stay mathematically alive, I believe, in the Manufacturers' Championship, but oh, very slightly. Meanwhile, Jonathan Bomarito has the best view of this as he watches all this happening ahead of him. If they can get ahead, because right now it is the Corvette that has the advantage over the BMW by not very much. As you can see here, Magnussen now draw all over the back of Patrick Long's Porsche. Yeah, he's slowly but surely been catching up to him. Meanwhile, you've got that number 56 Dirk Dirk Mueller, BMW right there as well. Everybody pushing hard, trying to hope that the guy ahead of him will make a mistake or somebody will make a mistake so they can squeeze by. You see Mueller move to the right. Now he moves over and takes a look to the left. Doesn't have anything to do, and you've got a PC car that's in the back trying to worry about what he needs to do.
Yes, Marino Franchitti, look at this number 4 car. Tommy Milner, he got a great run on the BMW and apparently has better straight line speed. He tucked in behind the P2 car there, Marino Franchitti.
Oh.
Whoa! And Milner gets a bump there from behind from Dirk Mueller. Dirk Mueller not impressed that he lost that position. So this is looking really good now for Corvette. This is exactly what this team needed. They've got both of the Corvettes ahead of the BMW.
It's amazing when you think of all the problems the 4 car has had over the last few races. This weekend where they had a problem, look how close he is riding up onto the back of Jan Magnussen, working hard to try to figure out whether he wants to. There are no team orders, by the way. Even though Jan Magnussen has the points lead together with his teammate, there are no team orders according to the team.
Oh, yes, there are.
Well, don't take each other out.
Exactly.
I just meant as far as the Drivers' Championship.
That's exactly
There's
right.
one big rule. Don't take them out. We have less than 4 minutes remaining in this race, and these guys want it really bad.
And look at this, Maxime Martin in the black BMW. He's close right in on this battle as well. So we got, once again, 4 cars absolutely nose to tail.
Boy, both Corvettes, both BMWs, those championships at stake, and look how hard Dirk Mueller is trying to get by.
And look how much Patrick Long has been able to pull away as a result of this battling amongst these 2 Corvettes and the 2 BMWs. Great drive by Patrick Long here. He clearly doesn't have a car that's a match on pace for these other guys at the moment on this particular day, but he is doing an absolutely magnificent job aboard that number 06 car for Core Autosport.
I think at this point it's just going to be a matter of who makes a mistake, and so far these guys don't seem to be making any mistakes. You see him get a wheel off, you see him kick the dust up, but nobody has seemed to. Now for a moment there you had that number 4 car that was right up on the top, right. on the back I should say, of the number 3 car, the Team Corvette, but now that they've gone around the track, Jan Magnussen has stretched it out.
Well, I'm pretty sure here that Tommy Milner has been told his number 1 job now is to keep the BMWs behind him.
That's exactly right. Very simple. Let's find out more.
Listening in on the team radios for BMW, they're telling Dirk Mueller at the moment, keep your eye on Max right behind you. When you guys get to the straightaway, you can do a double car draft. So a lot of strategy coming into play. Bobby Rahal, team owner, who normally calls strategy on the number 56, he's not here this weekend. So it's all come down to the engineering staff of Chris Yanscher and Uwe Wolf. Right now, they're trying to get Dirk as many points as possible. And looks like, oh yeah, we have the 93 car out on track right now. Their team looking over the pit wall.
Yeah, Bobby Rahal has 2 teams, an IndyCar team and an ALMS team. This weekend, yeah, that I was talking about the problem with that hood all the time. It was not quite secure, and it looks like it finally just gave way. We'll have to see if we can get a replay to find out what happened with that hood. It had been bouncing for some time. There you see, he's slightly off.
Digging through the grass, that won't do the hood any good at all. Look at all the whole front valance on that car. You can see how far off the track that.
Yeah, see, I think the problem was the hood was already starting to go before that. Yeah, maybe. Because
that was the other car, though, wasn't it? That was the number 93 car. This was a 91 car that was off the road down there. I think, wasn't it, Mark Goossens?
No, that was actually the car of Bomarito. And there you see the Dirk Mueller car bumping his way past the number 4 car. They are side by side. The number 4 car not willing to let it give in. He gets ahead. Now he's got to be able to maintain it through the rest of the corner. You see the Corvette looking to the left, looking to the right, trying to figure out why. They've got contact as they go into this left-hander.
And number 56 car there, Dirk Mueller, he went from one side of the racetrack to the other. Was that a defensive move? The stewards will be looking at that. He will, at the very least, he will get a warning there, because you're not allowed to move in reaction to somebody who's behind you. So if you see one car moving behind you, you cannot move to block him. That's exactly what Dirk Mueller did there. Apparently he's going to be lucky. He's going to get a warning with just the white flag. And 1 lap to go.
Oh, we've got 1 lap to go, and they are indeed going to give him a sportsmanship warning as he goes by. But meanwhile, he still has the position. He cuts to the inside, a relatively defensive line, but not in reaction. You see the car, the number 4 car, just slightly sliding out. He taps the BMW from behind very slightly.
In the meantime, the number 3 car has made an escape there. Jan Magnussen, he's quite a way up the road now, relatively speaking, at least in GT terms.
I just find it hard to believe that the number 4 car and the number 56 car aren't going to come together at least one more time. Now the advantage is they've got that GTC car behind them. Meanwhile, the number 55 car has gotten by as well. The BMW has gotten by the number 4 Corvette.
It has, because Tommy Milner there was trying to get around the GTC car and he had to run wide, and that cost him a position.
Remember, this is the last lap. We've already gotten the white flag. This is the last battle that they have as they come around. And even though it's only one position, boy, you can tell that he wants it so badly. Tommy Milner in that car, trying to figure out if he can find a new way to get by. For round Oak Tree, it's basically going to be a long drag race to try to figure out if he can catch up at all to that BMW. And the BMW folks have been saying, we don't have the top speed. Of course, I've also been hearing that out of the Corvette folks as well.
Yeah, that's right. There's been a lot of bleating going on, hasn't there?
There's the leader in the race, Lucas Luhr, the number 6 car. Lost the lead at one point. Guy Smith had it, did a great job of getting it back. I think the team did a great job. Pit strategy, bringing him in at the right time, as it turns out, with that long yellow flag. He comes back around that final turn, goes along the pit straight, and it looks like he's going to get win number 49. He points to the team, says congratulations, thank you, and Lucas Luhr has his 49th American Le Mans Series victory as Team Muscle Milk wins here at Virginia International Raceway. Meanwhile, the number 62 Risi Ferrari, being driven by Matteo Malicelli, is doing a phenomenal job of trying to get back around so that they can finish this race and be the winner in the GT division.
And we saw the Extreme Speeds team scored a couple of wins for Ferrari last year, but this is the first win for Ferrari in 2013 after a very difficult season for Matteo Malicelli and Olivier Beretta. It's been a great run for those two guys today.
As I said, especially as a result of the issues that they had during qualifying. They were fast at various points during the practice. They showed flashes of speed, but it just came back down to the issue of trying to have the time to be able to make it to the end. Meanwhile, we're on board with the 551 car being driven by Ryan Briscoe. As he comes around the final turn, he's going to take the checkered flag, and their team strategy is working. Ryan Briscoe gets the victory together with Scott Tucker, moves them up just slightly in the points battle against Scott Sharp. There you see Scott Tucker standing out there, thankful to his teammate, Ryan Briscoe. And we're going to give the Battery Tender Hard Charger Award to that guy right there, Rich White. If you just joined us, he did an incredible job today of avoiding the cars spinning and flipping in front of him, following the action. And he did a phenomenal job, and we're very thankful that A, he's safe, and B, he provided the absolutely phenomenal pictures that he provided during the course of this race. We're going to take a quick break, come back, and find out how all the classes have sorted themselves out.
Race into the night, October 19th at Road Atlanta's Petit Le Mans, powered by Mazda. See the world's fastest and most exotic 200-mile-per-hour Le Mans sports cars at Road Atlanta. Petit Le Mans, October 19th.
You did it. You solved Corman's enigma. How did you do it, Professor?
Professor? No, I'm not a professor. I'm just here to see my daughter. She's a dance major. But I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Stay smart. Stay at a Holiday Inn Express.
Rated E for everyone.
We dream of speed, of pushing to the limit and beyond. We dream of racing the ghosts of history, of perfect passes and podium finishes. We dream to compete. We dream to win.
Xbox 360, starting at $99.
Now relax. Let the qi flow from the inner Zhang Fu organs outwards as the needles open your meridians.
Oh, it feels so good. I really thought the needles would hurt.
So did I. I hate needles.
That must make it hard to do what you do.
Oh, not really. I deliver paninis. Easy acupuncturist. But I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Oh.
Stay smart. Stay Stay at a Holiday Inn Express.
Deltran battery tender battery chargers. Just like the everyday consumer, the racing community knows the importance of a healthy charge. Deltran battery tender is the trusted charger for some of the most respected brands in the world today. Don't let a dead battery ruin your fun or work. If you can't start it, you can't drive it. Connect a Deltran battery tender battery charger to all of your batteries. Available at these fine retailers. If it's not a Deltran battery tender, it's just a pretender.
Race into the night, October 19th at Road Atlanta's Petit Le Mans, powered by Mazda. See the world's fastest and most exotic 200-mile-per-hour Le Mans sports cars at Road Atlanta. Petit Le Mans, October 19th.
ESPN coverage of the American Le Mans Series presented by Tequila Patron is brought to you by VP Racing Fuels. Our passion is making power. Tequila Patron, simply perfect.
Back here at Virginia International Raceway, a nice warm day, and it's been quite an adventure out there on the track. The first half of the race had all kinds of stuff going on. The second half calmed down a little bit, but those last few laps, boy, I tell you, it was tooth and nail out there.
Yeah, some great battles there in a whole bunch of different classes. Tremendous excitement, I think, from start to finish that race. As you say, we had a bit of a lull in the middle there with a couple of full course cautions, but some great racing action, some great drives by a whole bunch of different people, and certainly great to see the two drivers of those Porsches that involved that huge accident going up through the S's are basically okay.
Klaus Graf, Lucas Luhr out there congratulating each other. A little hug from his son is there as well. Gets victory number 49 in the American Le Mans Series. That's a very, very impressive run. Puts him in the position to get that magic 50th victory at Petit Le Mans, so he can pull that off.
And that's Brandon Fry there on the right-hand side, the race engineer here for the Muscle Milk team. And again, it was great strategy by these guys. They made that pit stop when they needed to, and they were able to bring it home from there.
Credit goes to Guy Smith and Johnny Mullum. I think they drove an excellent race. Yep. Strategy didn't quite work out perfectly for them, but I think they did drive a good race. If it had worked out just a little bit differently, well, it might have been different. Let's move down and hear from our winners of the race.
Lucas Luhr and Klaus Graf celebrating 8 straight, and Lucas's son Gianluca on hand to see it. And Lucas, I know you welcomed the competition from Dyson, but at times was it more than you bargained for?
No, it was great. I think today what won, is a couple of times where Klaus or I won the race. Today, I think our crew, Brandon Fry and all these boys on the strategy, they won it for us. Yeah, so they got me in the lead. And during the last yellow, I had cars between me and him. I said, okay, now it's go time. That's what I did, and it was enough for the end.
8 straight, congratulations, guys.
There's his son there, getting a great look at everything going on. Now let's talk about the GT results. Risi Competizione, what a spectacular job by Olivier Berretti and Malicelli today. I mean, they both did a great job of bringing that car ahead of everybody else. And I got to give credit to Patrick Long. He was under attack with that Cora Autosport Porsche by that Corvette and managed to hang on and get that second position. I think it was an absolutely great job. Now, let's hear from our winner in GT.
Matteo Malicelli, a man of few words, but Matteo, that was a phenomenal drive, finally bringing home the first win of the season for Risi Competizione. What was the biggest factor in getting this win today?
Yeah, we improved the car. We work a lot with the car after the bad race of the start of the season. And we was faster also in Kota, but we have some problem. And this time always was perfect, the team was perfect. And the car was perfect, Michelin tires were perfect, and we won, so I'm really happy.
And as he said, simply perfect. Congratulations.
And he has a perfect record here. This is the first time he's raced here. He's raced once, and he's won. Now let's take a look at the manufacturer points. With only 24 points available at Petit Le Mans, it looks like Chevrolet has pulled it off. 164 points ahead of BMW with 134 points. Let's hear from the guys who made it possible.
The third place finish for the number 3 Corvette, enough to secure that manufacturer's championship, but Jan Magnussen there at the end, things got pretty intense.
Yes, incredibly. I was well aware of the fact that position we were in, and it was a fantastic position. There was an opportunity to maybe improve on it a little bit. There was also a big opportunity to really mess things up. So I was being super cautious. Patrick was driving really defensively, backing me up in places where he knew I couldn't attack. So I was just, well, you know, this is the second race in a row. We get home with a completely clean nose. So very happy with that. Team manufacturer, the team and manufacturer champions, and a little bigger lead in the Drivers' Championship. Fantastic.
Great effort.
Jan was just talking about that Drivers' Championship. Let's take a look at the points, and you can see that Garcia and Magnussen together have stretched out their lead just a little bit. Dirk Mueller doing his best to hang on, but still 16 points behind.
And the championship now will be just between those, the number 3 car, Garcia, Magnussen, and Dirk Mueller. Tommy Milner and Oliver Gavin 25 points behind, as we already heard, just 24 points up for grabs at Petit Le Mans.
And the reality is Dirk Mueller is probably going to need something to go wrong with Garcia and Magnussen for him to be able to take that championship. But Petit Le Mans is a very long race, 10, 11 hours. You have to go at least 70% of the distance. As a result, anything is possible when you get to those long races. P2, well, Ryan Briscoe had one job coming into this race. Well, 2 jobs, actually. 1, to get as many points as possible. 2, not to screw up. I think we can say that he safely did both. His boss, Scott Tucker, part of the championship team, part of the team that won this race. And let's hear from them both.
It's the 7th win of the season for the number 551. Scott Tucker earns those championship points. Ryan Briscoe, you were given a job to do, and that was to bring home the win, get those championship points. Now that that's been done, how big of a relief is it?
No, it's good. I mean, I felt pretty confident we had a good car today, and the strategy went perfectly. All the engineers, everyone on board just performed and executed to perfection today. So that's what we needed to do. The car was strong, and was able to, you know, drive pretty comfortably at the end, and it felt great. So great job by Scott at the beginning as well. I mean, he led most of his laps out there. It was an awesome job, and yeah, we'll try to do this again at Petit Le Mans.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Congratulations to those two. Done a great job. Obviously, there is still a points championship, but now it is stretched to 4.
Yeah, and that was a quick brief look there at the unofficial points here. But I believe Marino Franchitti and Guy Cosmo didn't drive it enough time in the race to actually score. So by my unofficial reckoning, Scott Tucker will hold a 6-point advantage over Scott Sharp going into the finale in 2 weeks' time at Petit Le Mans.
Exactly, getting an extra 4 points today, together with the 2 points that he had the lead going into this over Scott Sharp. Now let's talk about the PC results, and you got to give a massive credit to Chris Cumming and Kyle Marcelli. 2 races in a row. They have done a phenomenal job. Also, John Bennett, Tom Kimber-Smith coming in second. But in terms of the points championship, it's going to get a little bit closer here as a result of everything.
Oh, man, it certainly is. And team points, there's only going to be, I reckon, PR1, Matheson Motorsports and Core Audis were absolutely tied together on 128. And now Bar 1 Motorsports just 7 points behind.
All right. This is getting very interesting in PC. Let's hear from these guys.
It's the all-Canadian lineup of Chris Cumming and Kyle Marcelli who take the checkered flag in PC. And now Chris Cumming has an outside shot here at the championship. But for you, Kyle Marcelli, 2 wins in a row. It took you guys a while to find your groove this season. Better late than never, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been really strong the second half, podium after podium, and now 2 wins in a row. So really excited going into Petit. We've got some good momentum. You know, today's race, it wasn't easy. This place keeps you on your toes. It's a very narrow circuit. Track gets dirty very easy, and so you really got to concentrate corner after corner. You know, once again, the race starts off by a great stint from Chris, and then I just had to do my job and hang on to the lead. But hats off to Chris, the team, the guys, because it was, again, a team package.
And for Chris, now that you know you head into Petit Le Mans, looks like an 11-point gap between you and Mike Gouache. Did you think you could be in this situation this late in the season?
No, I mean, this was, you know, after Baltimore, I kind of thought we were out of it, but I think we changed our mentality and just put our heads down and said, you know, we're not gonna drive conservatively for just to finish and score points. We're going to drive to win, and I think you're starting to see the results of that. And so yeah, I mean, you know, anything can happen now. 11 points out, we got a shot.
Congratulations.
4 podium finishes in the last 5 races. They really have moved these guys up into contention. Let's have a look at the championship points. Chris Cumming now vaults all the way from 4th place in the point, 5th place in the points, up to 2nd.
Now you have to give great credit to Mike Gouache's team. after that incident at the beginning of the race. They had to pull the car back behind the wall, work on it. They were able to get it back out. He was able to continue to run, and his teammate, Dane Cameron, was able to continue to run. They were able to get the points, which kept them alive. Very, very important. All right, let's talk about GTC and the fact that Damian Faulkner, for the second race in a row, together with his teammate Ben Keating, have come home with a victory in the GTC division, just ahead of Cooper McNeil, Jerome Blickmolen in the Alex Job car, that number 22 car, and Sean Edwards in that third car. And Damian Faulkner happy once again.
Yes, Ben Keating and Damian Faulkner were not in the championship chase, so you guys made a statement that you were going to go out and just go for the overall wins. Damian, now that you've got 2 wins in a row, what statement are you trying to make?
Well, I have to say we found a newfound confidence at COTA. We had a fantastic weekend there, and really we're still riding on the crest of that wave, to be honest. And to come to a track that Ben adores and that he drives so well on, and that the team runs so well on, and that I like so much, was fantastic, and it couldn't have been timed better. Unfortunately, yes, you're right, we're not in the championship hunt, but I think it allowed us to be a little bit more aggressive and take more risks. I knew the guys behind probably couldn't take as many because they're in the championship hunt, but I have to say a big thank you to TRG, to the whole team, entire team. They worked really hard, and Ben drove faultlessly today. And I'd like to dedicate this one to my father, because it's his birthday today. Happy birthday, Dad.
Congratulations, guys.
The second win of the season and in a row, as we heard there from TRG. And now the Flying Lizard, Alex Job Racing, NGT Motorsports and TRG all run 2 races apiece this season. And there's just 2 points between the top 2 teams going into the finale.
Yeah, Cooper McNeil and Jerome Blickmolen have that 13-point lead going into the final race. 13 points, a big advantage, but once again, it's Petit Le Mans. The Green X Challenge, Muscle Milk winning in the prototype division. Remember that clean, fast, efficient, the lowest score wins at the end of the day. In the prototypes, Muscle Milk followed by Dyson. Not a bad job there. And Corvette, the number 4 car, very impressive, clean, fast, and efficient. Just barely edging out the Reese car, the number 62 car, at the end of the day. Jeremy, your final thoughts here.
Again, another great race. Once again, the GT cars, I think, probably the highlight. Tremendous battling all the way through. And finally, that first win of the season for Ferrari.
A great race all the way around. Don't forget, we've got one last race, the final race of this series, the final race of the American Le Mans Series completely. A Petit Le Mans coming up on October 19th. Begins at 11 a.m. right here on ESPN 3. And as we look away, it was a great day. All kinds of strange things on the track, great racing, and beautiful conditions. So long from Virginia International Raceway. For Rick DeBrule, Jeremy Shaw, Kelly Stavis, Jamie Howe, it's been a great but interesting day. So long.